The emergence of the Forge Worlds as bastions of technological supremacy traces its roots to the darkest period in human history, when the galaxy burned under the apocalyptic fires of the Age of Strife. During this catastrophic epoch, spanning roughly from the 25th to 30th millennia, humanity's vast stellar empire collapsed into isolated fragments as warp storms raged across the galaxy and artificial intelligences turned against their creators in the devastating conflicts known as the Men of Iron Rebellion. While most human worlds descended into barbarism or were consumed entirely by the chaos that engulfed the galaxy, certain enclaves managed to preserve not only their lives, but their technological heritage through a combination of scientific mastery, religious devotion to ancient knowledge, and sheer determination. These surviving techno-enclaves represented humanity's last flickering flames of technological enlightenment during the Long Night. Unlike the feudal worlds that reverted to primitive warfare or the death worlds where humans barely clung to survival, these communities had maintained their manufacturing capabilities, their understanding of advanced sciences, and most crucially, their ability to construct and maintain the complex machinery that separated civilization from barbarism. The inhabitants of these isolated bastions developed unique cultures centered around the preservation and worship of technology, viewing mechanical knowledge not merely as a tool for survival, but as sacred wisdom passed down from their ancestors. Mars stood as the greatest of these techno-enclaves, its red surface honeycombed with vast forge complexes and manufacturing facilities that had operated continuously throughout the Age of Strife. The Martian tech priests had not merely survived the collapse of human civilization, but had evolved into something distinctly different from baseline humanity. Their bodies bore extensive mechanical augmentations, replacing weak flesh with blessed steel and sacred circuits. Their society revolved around the cult Mechanicus, a techno-religious doctrine that venerated the machine god and viewed the pursuit of knowledge as the highest form of worship. These crimson-robed figures maintained ancient standard template construct databases, operated massive Titan war engines, and possessed manufacturing capabilities that dwarfed anything found elsewhere in the scattered remnants of human space. Beyond Mars, other isolated worlds had followed similar paths of technological preservation, though none matched the Red Planet's industrial might or religious sophistication. Some had maintained orbital shipyards that continued producing vessels throughout the Age of Strife, while others specialized in specific technological disciplines such as plasma reactors, gravitics manipulation, or exotic materials synthesis. These scattered enclaves often developed their own interpretations of technological worship, creating diverse but related belief systems that would later be incorporated into the broader Mechanicus orthodoxy. When the Emperor of Mankind emerged from Terra to begin his Great Crusade in the early 31st millennium, the rediscovery and integration of these techno-enclaves became a strategic priority of paramount importance. The nascent Imperium possessed the military might and organizational structure necessary for galactic conquest, but it lacked the industrial base required to sustain such an enormous undertaking. The Emperor's Thunder Warriors and later the Space Marine Legions could conquer worlds, but without the ability to produce the weapons, vehicles, and equipment necessary for continued expansion, the Great Crusade would inevitably stall. The first and most crucial of these encounters occurred when Imperial forces reached Mars itself. Rather than attempting to conquer the Red Planet through military force, the Emperor chose a path of negotiation and mutual recognition. The Fabricator General of Mars, the supreme leader of the Martian tech priesthood, entered into discussions with the Master of Mankind that would fundamentally reshape both civilizations. These negotiations recognized the fundamental complementarity between Imperial and Martian capabilities. The Imperium offered protection, resources, and access to lost knowledge scattered across the galaxy, while Mars provided the technological expertise and manufacturing capacity essential for galactic conquest. The Treaty of Mars, formalized early in the Great Crusade, established the legal and philosophical framework that would govern Imperial Mechanicus relations for the next 10 millennia. This agreement recognized the Adeptus Mechanicus as a semi-autonomous organization within the Imperium, maintaining its own hierarchy, beliefs, and internal governance, while serving as the Imperium's primary technological arm. The treaty granted the Mechanicus exclusive rights to certain categories of technology and established their role as the sole legitimate maintainers of the Imperium's industrial base. In exchange, the tech priests pledged their loyalty to the Emperor, whom they recognized as the Omnissiah, the physical manifestation of the machine god prophesied in their ancient texts. This alliance proved immediately beneficial to both parties. Martian forges began producing equipment for the expanding Space Marine legions, while Imperial explorator fleets gained access to Mechanicus technical expertise and manufacturing capabilities. The tech priests provided not only finished products, but also the knowledge necessary to establish new production facilities on conquered worlds. More importantly, they brought their understanding of standard template construct technology, ancient automated manufacturing systems that could produce complex equipment with minimal human oversight once properly programmed and maintained. As the Great Crusade expanded beyond the Sol system, the systematic establishment of new forge worlds became a central component of Imperial expansion strategy. This process typically began with explorator fleets, specialized expeditions combining Mechanicus technical expertise with Imperial military protection. These fleets sought out worlds that possessed the specific characteristics necessary for large-scale industrial development: abundant mineral resources, stable geological conditions, and strategic locations along major shipping routes. The ideal Forge World candidate possessed extensive deposits of rare metals and radioactive materials essential for advanced manufacturing, while maintaining sufficient distance from major warp storm activity to ensure reliable communication and supply lines. The colonization process itself followed established protocols developed through the early experiences of Martian expansion. Explorator fleets would conduct extensive surveys of potential worlds, analyzing geological composition, atmospheric conditions, and existing infrastructure left behind by previous human settlements. Once a suitable world was identified, the Mechanicus would establish initial landing sites equipped with prefabricated manufacturing facilities and defensive installations. These beachheads served as the foundation for larger industrial complexes that would gradually expand across the planet's surface. The transformation of a standard world into a proper Forge world required decades or even centuries of intensive development. Tech priests would construct massive forge complexes, underground manufacturing facilities that could operate independently of surface conditions. These installations housed the sacred machinery necessary for advanced production: plasma furnaces capable of reaching stellar temperatures, molecular assemblers that could construct materials atom by atom, and the blessed standard template construct systems that encoded the knowledge of humanity's technological golden age. The surface of emerging forge worlds gradually became dominated by industrial infrastructure: towering spires housing atmospheric processors, vast strip mines extracting precious minerals, and the distinctive red-painted facilities that marked Mechanicus territory. The human populations of these developing forge worlds underwent their own transformation as Mechanicus influence expanded. Unlike the feudal societies that characterized most Imperial worlds, Forge world populations developed around the principles of technological specialization and religious devotion to machinery. Workers received extensive augmentation to improve their efficiency and survivability in industrial environments, while the most promising individuals joined the tech priesthood itself. These populations learned to view their labor not as mere economic activity, but as sacred duty, each manufactured component representing a prayer to the machine god, and each successful production run constituting an act of worship. The divergent evolution of Forge world culture became increasingly apparent as these worlds matured beyond their initial colonization phases. While maintaining loyalty to the Emperor and integration with broader Imperial society, Forge worlds developed distinctly different social structures, religious practices, and technological focuses compared to standard Imperial worlds. The quest for knowledge became the driving force behind Forge World civilization, motivating everything from individual career choices to planetary-scale resource allocation decisions. This quest manifested in different ways across different worlds. Some Forge Worlds specialized in archaeological expeditions to recover lost technology. Others focused on theoretical research into the fundamental principles governing reality, and still others concentrated on practical engineering challenges, such as improving existing designs or developing new applications for known technologies. The religious dimension of Forge World culture centered around the worship of the Omnissiah, but local interpretations of this central doctrine varied significantly between different worlds. Some Forge Worlds emphasized the Emperor's role as the Omnissiah, integrating Imperial religious symbolism with traditional Mechanicus iconography. Others maintained more traditional Martian interpretations while acknowledging Imperial authority. These theological differences rarely created serious conflicts, but they contributed to the distinctive character that each Forge World developed over time. The technological specializations that emerged on different Forge Worlds reflected both local resources and the particular interests of their founding tech priests. Worlds rich in rare metals might focus on advanced electronics and precision instruments, while those with abundant energy sources could specialize in plasma technology or gravitics research. Some Forge Worlds became renowned for their expertise in specific categories of equipment. One might produce the finest las weapons in the sector, another might manufacture the most reliable vehicle engines, and a third might specialize in the complex systems required for void ship construction. During the Great Crusade era, these emerging Forge Worlds played crucial roles in supporting the Imperium's expansion efforts. They served as forward bases for explorator fleets pushing into unexplored regions, manufacturing centers producing equipment for newly conquered worlds, and research facilities working to understand and integrate newly discovered technologies. The establishment of Forge Worlds in strategic locations allowed the Imperium to project its industrial capacity across vast distances, ensuring that military forces operating far from Terra and Mars could still receive the equipment and support necessary for continued operations. The success of the Forge World model during the Great Crusade established patterns that would persist throughout Imperial history. The combination of technological expertise, religious devotion, and industrial capacity proved remarkably effective at creating self-sustaining centers of advanced manufacturing. These worlds could maintain their operations even when cut off from broader Imperial support for extended periods, a capability that would prove essential during the dark times that followed the Horus Heresy. The establishment of Forge Worlds across the galaxy during the Great Crusade created a complex web of technological dependencies and political relationships that would define the Adeptus Mechanicus for millennia to come. At the apex of this vast organization stands Mars, the red planet whose fabricator general holds supreme authority over all Mechanicus assets throughout Imperial space. This position represents far more than mere administrative oversight. The fabricator general serves as the spiritual leader of the cult Mechanicus, the keeper of the most sacred standard template constructs, and the ultimate arbiter of technological orthodoxy. From the towering spires of the Olympus Mons complex, the Fabricator General's edicts reach across the galaxy to influence everything from routine maintenance procedures on distant worlds to the allocation of resources for major military campaigns. The relationship between Mars and the scattered Forge Worlds operates through a carefully maintained balance of autonomy and dependency. While each Forge World maintains its own internal hierarchy and specialized technological focus, they remain bound to Mars through ancient treaties, shared religious doctrine, and practical necessity. The Red Planet controls access to the most advanced standard template constructs, maintains the primary archives of technological knowledge, and serves as the final authority on questions of doctrinal interpretation. Forge Worlds seeking to undertake major technological projects or expand their manufacturing capabilities must often petition Mars for access to specific knowledge or resources, creating a system where local autonomy exists within clearly defined boundaries. This hierarchical structure manifests in the regular flow of personnel, resources, and information between Mars and the outlying Forge worlds. Promising tech adepts from distant worlds journey to Mars to complete their advanced training in the sacred forges of the Red Planet, while Martian tech priests are dispatched to oversee critical projects or investigate potential doctrinal violations. The exchange of knowledge follows similarly structured patterns, with new discoveries or technological innovations being reported to Mars for evaluation and potential dissemination to other Forge worlds. This system ensures that the Adeptus Mechanicus maintains coherent technological standards across the galaxy, while allowing individual worlds to pursue specialized research within their areas of expertise. The political dynamics between major Forge worlds add layers of complexity to this Martian-centered hierarchy. Ancient Forge worlds like Lucius, Ryza, and Mechanicum have developed their own spheres of influence, maintaining relationships with smaller manufacturing worlds and establishing regional networks of technological exchange. These relationships sometimes create tensions with direct Martian authority, particularly when regional interests conflict with broader Mechanicus policy. The Forge world of Lucius, renowned for its expertise in Law's weapon technology, maintains extensive trade relationships with Imperial Guard regiments throughout the Segmentum Solar, occasionally prioritizing these military contracts over directives from Mars regarding resource allocation or production schedules. Within individual Forge worlds, the tech priest hierarchy operates according to principles that blend meritocratic advancement with religious devotion and technological expertise. At the lowest levels of this hierarchy stand the servitors, humans who have undergone extensive cybernetic modification to transform them into living machines, capable of performing specific tasks with mechanical precision. These unfortunate individuals retain little of their original humanity, their minds wiped clean and replaced with simple programming that allows them to operate machinery, perform manual labor, or serve as living components in larger technological systems. Servitors represent the most visible manifestation of the Mechanicus belief that flesh is weak and must be replaced with the blessed certainty of machinery. Above the servitors in the hierarchy are the engine seers, tech priests who have completed their basic training and received their first significant mechanical augmentations. These individuals serve as the backbone of Forge world operations, maintaining the countless machines that keep industrial production running, performing routine repairs on everything from simple tools to complex manufacturing systems, and overseeing the work of servitor labor gangs. Engine seers typically specialize in specific technological disciplines during their early careers, developing expertise in areas such as plasma containment, gravitics manipulation, or cogitator programming. Their red robes bear the basic symbols of their calling, while their augmentations usually include enhanced visual systems, mechanical limbs optimized for precision work, and cranial implants that allow direct interface with machine systems. The advancement from engine seer to higher ranks within the tech priesthood requires demonstrated mastery of increasingly complex technological challenges, combined with deepening religious devotion to the machine god. Tech adepts represent the next tier of the hierarchy, individuals who have proven their ability to understand and maintain advanced systems, while contributing original research or innovations to their chosen field of study. These tech priests often oversee major manufacturing projects, lead research teams investigating new applications of existing technology, or serve as technical advisors to Imperial military forces. Their augmentations become more extensive and specialized, reflecting both their growing rejection of biological weakness and their need for enhanced capabilities in their areas of expertise. The upper reaches of the tech priest hierarchy include the ranks of tech dominus and magos, positions that combine significant administrative responsibility with advanced technological knowledge. A tech dominus typically oversees major sections of a Forge world's operations, managing everything from resource allocation to personnel assignments, while maintaining responsibility for the spiritual welfare of subordinate tech priests. These individuals have often replaced most of their original biological components with mechanical systems, their forms becoming increasingly alien as they pursue the ideal of perfect fusion between flesh and machine. Their authority extends beyond mere technical matters to include doctrinal interpretation and the identification of potential heretical deviations from orthodox Mechanicus belief. The rank of Magos represents one of the highest positions within the standard tech priest hierarchy, typically held by individuals who have made significant contributions to technological knowledge or demonstrated exceptional leadership capabilities. Magos-level tech priests often specialize in specific domains, such as Magos Biologus for biological research, Magos Explorator for exploration and archaeological work, or Magos Dominus for military applications of technology. These specialists maintain their own subordinate hierarchies and often compete with each other for resources and recognition from higher authorities. The political maneuvering between different Magos factions can significantly influence Forge World policy and resource allocation decisions. At the apex of individual Forge World hierarchies stand the Forge Lords, tech priests who have achieved mastery over entire technological domains and earned the right to govern major Forge Worlds or oversee critical Imperial projects. These individuals often bear titles that reflect their specific areas of expertise or the particular characteristics of their domains. The Forge Lord of a world specializing in Titan production might hold the title of Princeps Maximus, while the ruler of a world focused on void ship construction could be known as the Fabricator Navalis. These positions require not only supreme technological knowledge, but also the political acumen necessary to navigate the complex relationships between their worlds, Mars, and the broader Imperial hierarchy. The ideological divisions within the Adeptus Mechanicus add another layer of complexity to this hierarchical structure, as tech priests at all levels align themselves with various factions that interpret the fundamental doctrines of the cult Mechanicus in different ways. The orthodoxy represents the conservative mainstream of Mechanicus thought, emphasizing strict adherence to established doctrines, careful preservation of existing knowledge, and cautious approaches to technological innovation. Orthodox tech priests view their role as guardians of ancient wisdom, focusing on maintaining and perfecting existing technologies rather than pursuing radical new developments. They tend to favor hierarchical structures that preserve traditional authority relationships and resist changes that might threaten established patterns of technological development. The Reformer faction advocates for more aggressive approaches to technological advancement, arguing that the quest for knowledge requires active experimentation and innovation rather than mere preservation of ancient wisdom. Reformer tech priests often push the boundaries of acceptable research, investigating new applications of existing technologies or attempting to develop entirely novel approaches to technological challenges. They tend to be more willing to collaborate with non-Mechanicus Imperial institutions and may advocate for sharing certain categories of knowledge with properly trained Imperial personnel. This faction often finds itself in conflict with orthodox authorities over questions of research priorities and acceptable levels of technological risk. The most dangerous ideological division within the Mechanicus involves the Hirdex, tech priests who have abandoned orthodox doctrine in favor of forbidden knowledge or proscribed technological practices. These individuals might pursue research into artificial intelligence, attempt to recreate dark age of technology innovations without proper safeguards, or even collaborate with Xenos species to advance their understanding of alien technologies. Hirtech activities represent existential threats to both the Mechanicus and the broader Imperium, as their research often leads to technological disasters, demonic possession, or the creation of rogue artificial intelligences. The identification and elimination of Hirtech cells requires constant vigilance from orthodox tech priests and often involves cooperation with Imperial Inquisition forces. These factional divisions influence Forge World politics in subtle but significant ways, as tech priests must balance their personal beliefs with the practical requirements of their positions and the expectations of their superiors. A reformer-leaning magos might pursue innovative research projects while maintaining careful compliance with orthodox doctrinal requirements, while an orthodox forge lord might resist pressure from Mars to implement new manufacturing techniques that seem insufficiently tested. The complex interplay between personal conviction, institutional loyalty, and practical necessity creates a dynamic political environment where individual advancement often depends as much on ideological positioning as on technical competence. The military arms of individual forge worlds operate as integrated components of this hierarchical structure, serving both as defensive forces protecting valuable technological assets and as projection capabilities allowing forge worlds to pursue their interests across the galaxy. The Skitarii legions represent the most visible military component of Forge World power, cybernetically enhanced soldiers who combine human tactical flexibility with mechanical precision and reliability. These warriors undergo extensive augmentation processes that replace biological sensory systems with advanced detection equipment, enhance physical capabilities through mechanical limbs and reinforced skeletal structures, and install direct neural interfaces that allow seamless coordination with battlefield command systems. Skitarii organization reflects the technological focus of their parent Forge worlds, with different legions specializing in equipment and tactics that complement their world's primary industrial capabilities. A Forge world specializing in energy weapons might field Skitarii legions equipped with advanced las weapons and plasma technology, while a world focused on heavy manufacturing could deploy forces armed with massive siege weapons and armored vehicles. The command structure of Skitarii legions integrates seamlessly with the broader tech priest hierarchy, with Skitarii alpha units serving as field commanders while receiving strategic direction from tech dominus or magos level authorities. The Titan legions represent the ultimate expression of Forge World military power, housing the massive war engines that serve as both weapons of war and objects of religious veneration. Each Titan legion maintains its own traditions, heraldry, and operational doctrines, while remaining subordinate to the Forge World hierarchy that maintains and supplies their god machines. The princeps who pilot these enormous constructs occupy unique positions within Forge World society, combining the technical expertise necessary to interface with Titan systems with the spiritual devotion required to commune with machine spirits of enormous power and complexity. The relationship between Titan legions and their parent Forge worlds involves complex exchanges of loyalty, resources, and strategic cooperation that can significantly influence regional balance of power. Knight houses allied with specific Forge worlds add another dimension to this military integration, as these feudal institutions maintain their own traditions and leadership structures, while depending on Mechanicus technical support for the maintenance and operation of their knight suits. The relationship between knight houses and Forge worlds often spans millennia, creating bonds of mutual obligation that transcend simple military alliance. Forge worlds provide the technical expertise necessary to maintain knight war suits and may supply new equipment or upgrades in exchange for military service and access to resources controlled by knight house domains. These relationships require careful management by Forge world leadership, as knight houses maintain their own political agendas and may resist directives that conflict with their traditional obligations or territorial interests. The technological supremacy of the Forge worlds rests upon their jealously guarded access to standard template construct systems, ancient repositories of human knowledge that survived the catastrophic collapse of the dark age of technology. These SDC systems represent far more than mere manufacturing databases. They embody the accumulated wisdom of humanity's golden age, containing detailed specifications for everything from simple hand tools to continent-spanning industrial complexes. Each SDC fragment discovered by explorator fleets becomes a sacred relic, studied with religious devotion and protected with fanatical determination. The tech priests understand that these systems contain knowledge that their civilization cannot hope to recreate through conventional research, making every intact SDC database a treasure beyond measure. The veneration surrounding SDC technology permeates every aspect of Forge World culture and manufacturing processes. Tech priests approach these ancient systems not as simple machines, but as divine artifacts that channel the will of the Omnissiah himself. The discovery of a new SDC pattern triggers elaborate ceremonies of thanksgiving, while the loss or corruption of existing templates provokes periods of mourning and penance that can last for decades. This religious approach to technology creates a fundamental tension within Mechanicus doctrine, as the same systems that enable their technological superiority also constrain their ability to innovate beyond the boundaries established by their ancestors. Each Forge World's identity and economic position within the broader Mechanicus hierarchy depends heavily on the specific SDC patterns they control and their ability to manufacture products based on these ancient designs. Forge World Ryza built its reputation on exclusive access to SDC patterns for plasma technology, allowing their tech priests to produce plasma weapons, reactors, and containment systems that surpass the quality of similar equipment manufactured elsewhere. The complex plasma coils and magnetic containment fields required for these weapons demand manufacturing precision that only Ryza's specialized forges can achieve, creating a monopoly that has sustained the world's prominence for millennia. Similarly, Forge World Lucius maintains its position through mastery of Law's weapon SDC patterns that enable the production of laser technology with efficiency ratings and beam coherence far superior to standard Imperial Guard equipment. The crystalline focusing arrays and photonic amplification chambers produced in Lucius forges incorporate manufacturing techniques that remain incomprehensible to tech priests from other worlds, despite centuries of attempted reverse engineering. These specialized capabilities create networks of dependency and exchange between Forge worlds, as each installation seeks access to technologies they cannot produce independently while protecting their own manufacturing secrets from potential competitors. The manufacturing processes themselves have evolved into elaborate ritual performances that blend practical engineering with religious observance. The rites of activation represent the most fundamental of these ceremonies, performed whenever major manufacturing equipment is brought online or when production of particularly significant items begins. Tech priests gather around the blessed machinery, their augmented voices intoning the sacred canticles, while incense burners fill the air with sanctified smoke. The lead engineer approaches the machine's control systems, their mechanical fingers dancing across blessed control panels, while speaking the ritual phrases that awaken the machine's spirit dwelling within the equipment. These activation rituals serve multiple practical purposes beyond their obvious religious significance. The standardized procedures ensure that complex manufacturing systems are brought online in the correct sequence, preventing potentially catastrophic failures that could result from improper startup protocols. The ritual inspection of equipment components allows experienced tech priests to identify potential problems before they can disrupt production schedules or damage valuable machinery. Most importantly, the ceremonies reinforce the sacred nature of the manufacturing process, reminding all participants that their work serves not merely economic or military purposes, but represents acts of worship directed toward the machine god. Machine blessings constitute another essential category of manufacturing ritual, performed regularly on all equipment regardless of its operational status. These ceremonies involve the application of sacred oils and unguents to mechanical components, the burning of incense within machinery housings, and the recitation of specific prayers tailored to the type of equipment being blessed. A plasma forge receives different blessings than a gravitics manipulator, with each category of machinery requiring prayers that acknowledge the specific machine spirits inhabiting different types of technology. Tech priests learn hundreds of these specialized blessing rituals during their training, developing expertise in the proper spiritual maintenance of the equipment they will oversee throughout their careers. The spiritual significance of manufacturing within Mechanicus doctrine extends far beyond these formal ceremonies to encompass every aspect of production work. Each component produced in Forge World factories represents a prayer made manifest, a physical expression of devotion to the Omnissiah translated into metal, ceramite, and energy. Workers understand that their labor contributes to a sacred purpose that transcends immediate practical concerns, whether they are producing ammunition for Imperial Guard regiments or components for void ship construction. This religious framework transforms routine manufacturing work into acts of worship, creating a workforce motivated by spiritual conviction rather than mere economic necessity. The specialized production capabilities that define individual forge worlds create complex webs of interdependence and competition throughout the Mechanicus hierarchy. Forge World Metallica has developed unparalleled expertise in the production of heavy vehicles and armored fighting machines. Their forges capable of manufacturing Leman Russ battle tanks, Chimera transports, and Basilisk artillery pieces with precision and efficiency that other worlds cannot match. The massive industrial complexes of Metallica stretch across entire continents, their assembly lines staffed by thousands of augmented workers who have spent decades perfecting their specialized skills in armor fabrication and weapons integration. These manufacturing specializations reflect not only the STC patterns available to each world, but also the accumulated expertise developed over millennia of focused production. The tech priests of Metallica have refined their understanding of armor metallurgy, weapon mounting systems, and engine optimization through countless generations of vehicle production, creating institutional knowledge that cannot be easily replicated elsewhere. Their forges incorporate specialized equipment designed specifically for heavy vehicle assembly, including massive gravitics cranes capable of manipulating multi-ton armor plates and precision welding systems that can create seamless joints in the thickest ceramic plating. Void ship construction represents perhaps the most complex and prestigious category of Forge World manufacturing, requiring coordination between multiple specialized facilities and the integration of countless different technological systems. Forge World Cipra Mundi has built its reputation on the production of Imperial Navy vessels, their orbital shipyards capable of constructing everything from escort frigates to massive battleships. The construction of a single cruiser-class vessel requires years of coordinated effort, beginning with the laying of the keel in massive zero-gravity construction bays and proceeding through the installation of plasma drives, void shield generators, weapon systems, and the countless other components that make interstellar travel possible. The shipyards of Cipra Mundi operate as self-contained cities floating in the void above the planet's surface, their pressurized construction bays large enough to accommodate vessels several kilometers in length. Thousands of specialized workers live permanently aboard these facilities, their entire lives dedicated to the sacred art of void ship construction. These individuals undergo extensive augmentation to survive in the harsh environment of space-based manufacturing, their bodies modified with radiation shielding, atmospheric recycling systems, and magnetic anchoring points that allow them to work safely in zero-gravity conditions. Titan production represents the pinnacle of Forge World manufacturing capability, combining advanced metallurgy, plasma technology, gravitics manipulation, and machine spirit cultivation in ways that push the boundaries of human technological understanding. Forge World Lucius maintains one of the most renowned Titan manufacturing facilities in Imperial space, their forges capable of producing the massive Warlord-class engines that serve as the backbone of Titan Legion operations. The construction of a single Titan requires decades of careful work, beginning with the forging of the adamantium skeleton that will support the god machine's enormous weight, and continuing through the installation of plasma reactors, void shield projectors, and the massive weapon systems that make Titans such formidable battlefield assets. The Titan forges of Lucius operate according to traditions that date back to the earliest days of the Great Crusade, their manufacturing processes refined through millennia of experience in god-machine construction. The forging of a Titan skeleton requires plasma furnaces capable of reaching temperatures that approach those found in stellar cores, while the installation of the neural interface systems demands precision work that can take years to complete properly. Each Titan represents not merely a weapon of war, but a sacred artifact that embodies the highest achievements of Mechanicus technology, making their production a religious undertaking of the utmost significance. The relationships between Forge Worlds often revolve around these specialized manufacturing capabilities, creating networks of trade and mutual dependence that can span entire sectors of Imperial space. A Forge World specializing in Law's weapon production might exchange their products for plasma technology from Ryza or vehicle components from Mechanicum, while worlds focused on rare materials extraction trade their resources for finished goods they cannot produce independently. These relationships require careful negotiation and ongoing management, as each world seeks to maximize the value of their specialized capabilities while maintaining access to the technologies they need for their own operations. Competition between Forge Worlds can become particularly intense when multiple installations possess similar manufacturing capabilities, or when new SDC discoveries threaten to disrupt established trade relationships. The discovery of a new plasma weapon SDC pattern on a previously minor Forge World could potentially challenge Ryza's traditional dominance in that field, leading to complex political maneuvering as established powers seek to maintain their positions while newcomers attempt to exploit their advantages. These competitions rarely result in open conflict, but they create undercurrents of tension that influence everything from resource allocation decisions to personnel exchanges between different worlds. The constant struggle between innovation and orthodoxy represents one of the most significant challenges facing Forge World manufacturing operations. The Mechanicus doctrine emphasizes the preservation and proper application of ancient knowledge, viewing the SDC patterns as perfect expressions of technological truth that should not be altered or improved upon. This orthodox approach ensures the reliability and standardization of Imperial equipment while preventing the kind of reckless experimentation that contributed to the disasters of the Dark Age of technology. However, it also creates frustrations among tech priests who believe that careful innovation could improve upon ancient designs or adapt existing technologies to meet new challenges. The balance between technological advancement and adherence to ancient protocols manifests differently across various Forge Worlds, reflecting local traditions and the particular inclinations of their leadership. Some installations maintain strict orthodox approaches that forbid any deviation from established SDC patterns, while others permit limited experimentation within carefully defined boundaries. Forge World Greya has developed a reputation for cautious innovation, their tech priests working to optimize existing manufacturing processes and develop minor improvements to established designs without violating fundamental doctrinal principles. These innovative efforts often focus on manufacturing efficiency rather than product modification, seeking ways to reduce production time, minimize resource consumption, or improve quality control without altering the basic specifications contained in SDC patterns. A Greya tech priest might develop a new assembly line configuration that allows faster production of bolter ammunition, or create improved quality testing procedures that identify defective components before they can be incorporated into finished products. Such innovations require careful documentation and approval from higher authorities, ensuring that changes serve legitimate purposes and do not represent departures from orthodox doctrine. The most dangerous aspect of this innovation orthodoxy tension involves the temptation to pursue forbidden knowledge or attempt modifications that exceed the boundaries of acceptable research. Tech priests working with ancient SDC patterns sometimes discover tantalizing hints of more advanced capabilities that seem within reach through careful modification or enhancement of existing designs. The temptation to pursue such improvements can lead to heretical research that threatens not only individual careers, but the stability of entire Forge World operations. The identification and suppression of such activities requires constant vigilance from orthodox authorities and often involves painful decisions about trusted colleagues who have strayed from acceptable paths. The Segmentum Solar stands as the beating heart of Imperial civilization, containing not only Terra itself, but also the most ancient and powerful forge worlds in human space. Within this vast region of space, 4 forge worlds have achieved particular prominence through their technological mastery, military contributions, and political influence within the Adeptus Mechanicus hierarchy. These worlds represent the pinnacle of human manufacturing capability, each having developed unique specializations that make them indispensable to the broader Imperial war machine, while maintaining their own distinct cultures and technological traditions. Mars dominates this constellation of technological power as the undisputed center of Mechanicus authority and the birthplace of the cult Mechanicus itself. The red planet's crimson surface bears the scars of millennia of industrial development, its landscape transformed into a vast network of forge complexes, mining operations, and sacred repositories that stretch from pole to pole. The planet's thin atmosphere carries the constant sound of manufacturing operations, the rhythmic hammering of massive forges mixing with the hum of plasma reactors, and the chanting of tech priests performing their sacred duties. Towering spires of blackened metal pierce the rust-colored sky, their surfaces adorned with the cogwheel symbols of the Mechanicus and the binary cant inscriptions that mark the most sacred locations on the planet. The political supremacy of Mars within the Adeptus Mechanicus stems from its unique position as both the original home of the tech priesthood and the repository of the most complete standard template construct archives in Imperial space. The Fabricator General who rules from the Olympus Mons complex exercises authority over forge worlds throughout the galaxy, their edicts carrying the weight of both administrative necessity and religious doctrine. This central authority manifests through the constant flow of pilgrim tech priests who journey to Mars to complete their advanced training, study rare STC patterns, or seek guidance on complex theological questions. The red-robed figures who walk the sacred corridors of Martian forge complexes represent every major forge world in Imperial space, creating a cosmopolitan atmosphere that contrasts sharply with the more insular cultures found on distant manufacturing worlds. The manufacturing capabilities of Mars dwarf those of any other single world, with forge complexes that can produce everything from simple tools to the most complex Titan war engines. The Martian forges operate according to production schedules that span decades or even centuries, their output carefully coordinated to meet the needs of Imperial military forces while maintaining the technological edge that keeps the Mechanicus indispensable to Imperial governance. Deep beneath the planet's surface, vast vaults contain STC patterns too dangerous or valuable to risk storing elsewhere, their contents known only to the highest-ranking tech priests who guard these repositories with their lives. The Skitarii legions of Mars bear the distinctive red and white heraldry that marks them as servants of the Red Planet, their ranks filled with warriors who have undergone the most advanced augmentation procedures available to the Mechanicus. These forces serve not only as planetary defenders, but as the enforcement arm of Martian authority throughout Imperial space, deployed to protect critical installations or suppress threats to Mechanicus interests. The sight of Martian Skitarii advancing across a battlefield, their augmented forms moving with mechanical precision, while their enhanced weapons systems eliminate targets with ruthless efficiency, represents the ultimate expression of the Mechanicus belief in the superiority of machine over flesh. Forgeworld Lucius has earned its reputation as the premier manufacturer of Law's weapon technology through millennia of specialized development and refinement of crystalline focusing systems. The world's surface appears almost gem-like from orbit, its forge complexes incorporating vast crystal farms where specially grown focusing elements are cultivated under precisely controlled conditions. These crystal matrices require decades to reach maturity, their molecular structure carefully guided through alchemical processes that remain closely guarded secrets of the Lucian tech priesthood. The resulting focusing arrays produce laser beams of unprecedented coherence and power, making Lucian Law's weapons highly sought after by Imperial Guard regiments and Space Marine chapters throughout the galaxy. The manufacturing processes employed on Lucius blend advanced technology with almost mystical attention to detail. As tech priests work to create laser weapons, that exceed standard Imperial specifications in every measurable category. Each gun produced in Lucian forges undergoes individual testing and calibration, with master artificers personally adjusting the focusing arrays to achieve optimal performance. The planet's most skilled tech priests can craft weapons capable of penetrating armor that would easily deflect standard Imperial Guard equipment, their enhanced power cells providing sustained fire rates that give their users significant tactical advantages in prolonged engagements. The crystal-based manufacturing infrastructure of Lucius extends far beyond simple weapon production to encompass a wide range of optical and energy-focusing technologies. Lucian forges produce the targeting systems used in Imperial Navy vessels, the sensor arrays that guide orbital defense platforms, and the complex optical components required for advanced manufacturing equipment throughout the Mechanicus. This technological expertise has made Lucius a critical partner for other Forge worlds seeking to improve their own manufacturing capabilities, creating trade relationships that span the entire segmentum solar and beyond. The political influence of Lucius within the Mechanicus hierarchy reflects both their technological expertise and their careful cultivation of relationships with military organizations throughout the Imperium. Lucian tech priests serve as advisors to Imperial Guard commanders, helping to optimize the deployment and maintenance of weapon systems in combat environments. These relationships provide Lucius with valuable intelligence about battlefield conditions and equipment performance, information that feeds back into their research and development efforts to create even more effective weapon systems. Forge World Ryza stands as the undisputed master of plasma technology, their forges producing the reactors, weapons, and containment systems that harness one of the most dangerous and powerful energy sources available to Imperial science. The world's surface bears the distinctive blue-white glow of contained plasma reactions, visible even from orbit as countless forge complexes operate the massive reactors that power their manufacturing operations. The atmospheric processors of Ryza work constantly to filter the exotic radiation produced by these installations, creating a thin but breathable atmosphere that allows human workers to operate on the planet's surface with appropriate protective equipment. The plasma technology produced on Ryza represents the cutting edge of Imperial energy weapons development, with plasma guns, cannons, and reactors that deliver devastating firepower while maintaining acceptable reliability rates. Ryzen tech priests have developed sophisticated magnetic containment systems that reduce the risk of catastrophic plasma containment failure, though these weapons still require extensive maintenance and careful handling to prevent accidents that could kill their operators. The most advanced Ryzen plasma weapons incorporate multiple redundant containment systems and automatic shutdown procedures that activate when dangerous conditions are detected. The massive military production capabilities of Ryza become particularly evident during times of galactic conflict, when the world's forges operate at maximum capacity to supply Imperial forces with the plasma weapons and power systems they need for major campaigns. During the 13th Black Crusade, Ryzen production facilities worked around the clock to manufacture plasma cannons for Imperial Navy vessels and plasma guns for Space Marine chapters deploying to defend Cadia. The world's tech priests take particular pride in their ability to maintain production schedules even under the most demanding circumstances, viewing their contribution to Imperial military efforts as a sacred duty that transcends normal commercial considerations. The research facilities of Ryza constantly work to improve plasma containment technology and develop new applications for controlled fusion reactions. These efforts have produced innovations in spacecraft propulsion, industrial power generation, and exotic weapon systems that push the boundaries of what Imperial technology can achieve safely. Ryzen tech priests collaborate closely with their counterparts on other Forge worlds, sharing expertise in plasma technology while learning about complementary technologies that can enhance their own manufacturing capabilities. Forge World Metallica has built its reputation on aggressive expansion and the deployment of explorator fleets that push into the most dangerous regions of Imperial space in search of lost technology and new worlds suitable for colonization. The world's distinctive black and white heraldry has become synonymous with bold exploration and military excellence, as Metalik and Skitarii legions and their war machines establish footholds in hostile territories throughout the galaxy. The planet's surface reflects this martial character, with forge complexes designed as much for defense as for manufacturing, their walls bristling with weapon emplacements, and their layouts optimized for rapid deployment of military forces. The explorator fleets launched from Metallica represent some of the most well-equipped and aggressively led expeditions in Mechanicus service, combining advanced exploration vessels with powerful military escorts and specialized archaeological teams. These fleets venture into regions of space that other Forge worlds consider too dangerous to explore, seeking out the ruins of Dark Age of technology installations and investigating reports of SDC caches in systems ravaged by Xenos incursions or chaos corruption. The tech priests who crew these vessels undergo extensive combat training in addition to their technical education, preparing them for the hostile conditions they will inevitably encounter in their quest for lost knowledge. The military production capabilities of Metallica focus heavily on the vehicles and equipment needed to support these far-ranging expeditions, with specialized forges producing exploration vessels, heavy vehicles capable of operating in extreme environments, and the sophisticated sensor systems needed to detect technological artifacts buried beneath the ruins of dead civilizations. Metallican tech priests have developed particular expertise in the restoration and analysis of damaged SDC fragments, their techniques allowing them to extract usable information from artifacts that other Forge worlds might consider too corrupted to salvage. The Skitarii legions of Metallica reflect their world's aggressive character, with augmentations and equipment optimized for combat in hostile environments and against unknown threats. These warriors carry weapons designed for maximum reliability rather than precision, their gear selected to function effectively even when subjected to extreme conditions or exotic forms of damage. The sight of Metallican Skitarii advancing across a battlefield is unmistakable, their black and white armor marking them as veterans of countless expeditions into the galaxy's most dangerous regions. The political relationships between these four great Forge worlds create complex webs of cooperation and competition that influence Mechanicus policy throughout the segmentum solar. Mars maintains its supreme authority through control of the most advanced SDC patterns and its position as the spiritual center of the cult Mechanicus, but the specialized capabilities of Lucius, Ryza, and Metallica give these worlds significant leverage in negotiations over resource allocation and strategic priorities. When Lucius develops a new Law's weapon design, Mars must balance the desire to control this technology against the need to maintain good relationships with a world whose cooperation is essential for Imperial military effectiveness. The exchange of personnel between these worlds creates additional layers of political complexity, as tech priests trained on one world may find themselves assigned to positions on another, bringing with them the cultural attitudes and technical approaches of their original homes. A Ryzen tech priest working in Lucian crystal farms must adapt their plasma-focused expertise to the precise requirements of optical manufacturing, while a Metallican explorator serving on Mars might struggle with the more conservative approach to risk management favored by the Red Planet's leadership. These interworld relationships also manifest in the deployment of military forces and the allocation of resources for major Imperial campaigns. When the Imperium faces threats that require the combined capabilities of multiple Forge worlds, the coordination of their efforts requires careful diplomatic management to ensure that each world's contributions are properly recognized and that the resulting victories enhance rather than diminish their political positions within the Mechanicus hierarchy. The success of such cooperative efforts reinforces the bonds between allied Forge worlds while creating precedents for future collaboration in the face of existential threats to Imperial civilization. The expansion of Imperial authority beyond the cradle of human civilization brought the Adeptus Mechanicus into contact with worlds that would test their technological mastery against threats unimaginable during the relatively stable conditions of the segmentum solar. These distant forge worlds developed under constant pressure from Xeno's incursions, chaos corruption, and the countless hazards that lurk in the galaxy's outer reaches. Their evolution reflects not only the standard patterns of Mechanicus colonization, but also the unique adaptations required to survive and prosper in environments where orthodox approaches to manufacturing and defense often prove inadequate. Forge World Agrippina stands as perhaps the most embattled manufacturing center in Imperial space, its location near the Eye of Terror placing it directly in the path of chaos incursions that have plagued the region for 10 millennia. The world's surface bears the scars of countless battles, its forge complexes built like fortress cities, with walls of reinforced ceramite and adamantium that can withstand bombardment from demon engines and heretical war machines. The distinctive architecture of Agrippina reflects this constant state of siege, with manufacturing facilities constructed deep underground and connected by tunnels that allow continued production even when the surface installations come under direct attack. The tech priests of Agrippina have developed an almost paranoid attention to defensive technologies, their research focusing on weapon systems, fortification designs, and protective equipment that can function effectively against the supernatural threats that emerge from the Eye of Terror. Their forges produce void shields with enhanced resistance to warp-based attacks, creating defensive barriers that can deflect not only conventional weapons, but also the reality-warping energies wielded by chaos sorcerers and demon princes. The specialized manufacturing techniques required for these enhanced void shield projectors involve the incorporation of blessed metals and sanctified components that must be prepared according to elaborate ritual procedures designed to ward off chaos corruption. The Skitarii legions of Agrippina reflect their world's defensive focus, with augmentations and equipment specifically designed for combating chaos forces. Their visual sensors incorporate blessed lenses that can penetrate illusions created by demonic entities, while their weapon systems fire ammunition blessed by tech priests and inscribed with protective wards. These warriors undergo additional psychological conditioning beyond standard Skitarii training, their minds reinforced with mechanical implants and doctrinal programming designed to resist the corrupting influence of chaos exposure. The sight of Agrippina Skitarii advancing across a battlefield is distinctive, their movements displaying the mechanical precision expected of all Mechanicus forces, while their equipment bears the additional protective symbols and reinforced construction necessary for fighting enemies that can corrupt technology through mere proximity. The defensive innovations developed on Agrippina have found applications throughout Imperial space, particularly in regions where chaos incursions pose ongoing threats to Imperial installations. The enhanced void shield technology, pioneered by Agrippinan tech priests, now protects critical facilities on dozens of worlds, while their specialized anti-demon weaponry has been adopted by Imperial Guard regiments and Space Marine chapters operating in high corruption environments. The world's tech priests take particular pride in their contribution to the defense of Imperial civilization, viewing their constant struggle against chaos as a sacred duty that validates their technological innovations and justifies the resources devoted to their research programs. The manufacturing capabilities of Agrippina extend beyond purely defensive technologies to encompass a wide range of military equipment optimized for extended siege conditions. Their forges produce ammunition with enhanced storage stability, allowing Imperial forces to maintain stockpiles that remain effective even after years of storage in hostile environments. The power cells manufactured on Agrippina incorporate redundant safety systems and corruption-resistant components that continue functioning even when exposed to warp energies that would disable standard Imperial equipment. These innovations reflect the hard-won experience of tech priests who have learned through bitter necessity which technologies can be trusted in the face of supernatural threats. Forge World Graia occupies a strategic position along major shipping routes that has made it a frequent target for orc invasions, transforming the world into a testing ground for anti-Xenos warfare techniques and specialized equipment designed to counter greenskin technology. The planet's surface shows evidence of numerous orc attacks, with blast craters and the twisted remains of destroyed war machines serving as grim reminders of the constant threat posed by these aggressive Xenos. The forge complexes of Graia incorporate lessons learned from each successive invasion, their designs evolving to better withstand the crude but effective weapons favored by orc forces, while maintaining the manufacturing capabilities essential for continued Imperial service. The tech priests of Graia have developed particular expertise in understanding and countering orc technology. Their research facilities, containing extensive collections of captured greenskin equipment that serves as the basis for developing effective countermeasures. This research has revealed the disturbing reality that orc technology functions according to principles that seem to violate fundamental laws of physics, with weapons and vehicles that should not work according to conventional engineering principles, but nevertheless prove devastatingly effective in combat. Graian tech priests have learned to approach this paradox with the pragmatic acceptance that characterizes the most successful anti-Xenos specialists, focusing on developing weapons and tactics that can destroy orc equipment regardless of the theoretical impossibility of its operation. The anti-Xenos weaponry produced on Graia reflects this practical approach to combating greenskin technology, with designs optimized for maximum destructive effect against the crude but resilient construction methods favored by orc mechboys. Graian plasma weapons incorporate enhanced power settings that can punch through the thick armor plating found on orc vehicles, while their Law's weapon designs feature rapid-fire capabilities that can overwhelm the regenerative abilities of orc physiology. The ammunition produced in Graian forges includes specialized anti-personnel rounds designed to maximize tissue damage against greenskin targets, taking advantage of detailed anatomical studies conducted on captured orc specimens. The Skitarii legions of Graia have earned particular renown for their effectiveness against orc forces, their tactics and equipment refined through countless engagements with greenskin invaders. These warriors employ rapid deployment strategies that allow them to respond quickly to orc attacks, while their enhanced targeting systems can track and engage the fast-moving vehicles favored by speed freaks and other specialized orc formations. The augmentations common among Graian Skitarii include reinforced skeletal structures designed to withstand the massive kinetic impacts generated by orc weapons, while their sensory systems incorporate filters that can function effectively despite the electromagnetic interference produced by poorly shielded greenskin technology. The research conducted on Graia extends beyond immediate military applications to encompass broader studies of Xenos technology and the theoretical principles that govern alien engineering approaches. The world's tech priests have developed sophisticated analytical techniques for studying captured alien equipment, their methods allowing them to extract useful information while avoiding the heretical practice of attempting to replicate Xenos technology directly. This research has produced insights into materials science, energy manipulation, and manufacturing techniques that have found applications in purely human technology development, demonstrating that the study of alien methods can yield benefits without requiring the adoption of Xenos principles. Forge World Styges 8 operates under a permanent cloud of suspicion within the Adeptus Mechanicus hierarchy due to their controversial research into xenotech and their willingness to push the boundaries of acceptable technological investigation. The world's remote location in the galactic fringe has allowed their tech priests to pursue research programs that would face immediate suppression if conducted on worlds closer to Mars or Terra. The forge complexes of Styges 8 incorporate extensive security measures designed not only to protect their research from external threats, but also to contain the potentially dangerous technologies they study within carefully controlled environments. The xenotech research conducted on Styges 8 focuses on understanding alien technologies without attempting to replicate or adopt them directly, a distinction that allows their tech priests to maintain that their work falls within acceptable doctrinal boundaries. Their laboratories contain extensive collections of Eldar, tau, and even Necron artifacts, each specimen carefully studied to understand the principles underlying alien engineering approaches. This research has yielded insights into energy manipulation techniques, materials science applications, and manufacturing methods that have been adapted for use in purely human technology without incorporating any directly alien components. The tech priests of Styges 8 have developed sophisticated containment and analysis procedures that allow them to study dangerous xenotech while minimizing the risk of corruption or contamination. Their research facilities incorporate multiple layers of physical and spiritual protection, with blessed barriers and sanctified containment fields that can isolate alien artifacts from the broader Forge complex environment. The researchers themselves undergo extensive purification rituals before and after contact with xenotech, their bodies and minds subjected to cleansing procedures designed to remove any trace of alien influence that might compromise their loyalty to the Omnissiah. The manufacturing capabilities of Styges 8 reflect their unique research focus, with specialized equipment designed for the analysis and reverse engineering of alien technologies. Their forges produce sophisticated sensor arrays capable of detecting exotic energy signatures, containment systems that can safely hold dangerous xenotech specimens, and analytical equipment that can map the molecular structure of alien materials without direct physical contact. These capabilities have made Styges 8 a valuable resource for Inquisition operations that require technical expertise in dealing with alien threats, though such cooperation often occurs through carefully managed intermediaries rather than direct contact. The political position of Styges 8 within the Mechanicus hierarchy remains precarious, with orthodox factions viewing their research as dangerously close to heretical xenophilia, while more progressive elements recognize the valuable insights their work provides for Imperial defense efforts. The world's tech priests must constantly balance their research ambitions against the need to maintain acceptable levels of doctrinal compliance, often presenting their findings in ways that emphasize their applications for anti-xenos warfare rather than their theoretical implications for understanding alien science. This careful political maneuvering has allowed Styges 8 to continue their controversial research while avoiding the kind of direct intervention that would shut down their programs entirely. Forgeworld Vos Prime represents the pinnacle of Imperial shipbuilding capability, its massive orbital construction facilities capable of producing the largest vessels in the Imperial Navy's inventory. The world's surface serves primarily as a source of raw materials and a base for the countless support operations required to maintain the orbital shipyards, while the real manufacturing takes place in the vast zero-gravity construction bays that orbit the planet like artificial moons. These facilities can accommodate vessels up to battleship class, their construction bays equipped with gravitics manipulators, plasma welding systems, and the specialized equipment required for void ship assembly. The shipbuilding expertise concentrated on Vos Prime reflects millennia of accumulated knowledge in void warfare technology, with tech priests who understand every aspect of starship construction from the laying of adamantium keels to the installation of Geller field generators. The world's forges produce not only complete vessels, but also the countless components required for ship construction throughout the sector, including plasma drives, void shield projectors, and the complex life support systems that allow human crews to survive in the hostile environment of deep space. The quality control standards maintained by Vos Prime exceed those found at most other shipbuilding facilities, with every component subjected to exhaustive testing before installation in finished vessels. The orbital shipyards of Vos Prime operate according to production schedules that span decades, with individual vessels requiring years of construction time from initial keel laying to final commissioning. The largest construction bays can accommodate multiple cruiser-class vessels simultaneously, their assembly lines coordinated through complex logistical systems that ensure the timely delivery of components from planetary forges and other forge worlds throughout the sector. The sight of these massive facilities from orbit reveals the true scale of Imperial shipbuilding operations, with construction bays stretching for kilometers and surrounded by clouds of smaller support vessels and cargo haulers. The specialized void warfare equipment produced on Voss Prime includes some of the most advanced defensive and offensive systems available to Imperial Navy vessels. Their void shield generators incorporate multiple redundant projection systems that can maintain defensive coverage even when individual projectors suffer battle damage, while their weapon systems feature enhanced targeting arrays and improved ammunition handling systems that increase both accuracy and rate of fire. The tech priests of Voss Prime work closely with Imperial Navy personnel to ensure that their designs meet the practical requirements of void combat, incorporating feedback from fleet commanders and ship captains into their ongoing research and development efforts. The influence of Voss Prime extends far beyond their immediate manufacturing capabilities to encompass the training and certification of shipyard personnel throughout Imperial space. Tech priests from other worlds journey to Voss Prime to learn advanced shipbuilding techniques, while Voss Prime specialists are regularly dispatched to oversee major construction projects at other facilities. This exchange of expertise ensures that Imperial shipbuilding maintains consistent quality standards while spreading the specialized knowledge required for advanced void ship construction throughout the Mechanicus hierarchy. The political relationships created through these exchanges give Voss Prime significant influence over Imperial Navy procurement decisions and strategic planning for major fleet operations. The galaxy-spanning civil war that erupted in the early 31st millennium shattered the unity of the Adeptus Mechanicus just as catastrophically as it divided the Space Marine legions and the broader Imperial hierarchy. The Horus Heresy exposed fundamental ideological fractures within the tech priesthood that had been building for decades beneath the surface of apparent doctrinal unity. When Warmaster Horus turned against the Emperor, the reverberations of his betrayal reached deep into the forge complexes of Mars and spread like a virus through the communication networks that linked forge worlds across the galaxy. The ancient alliance between Terra and Mars, forged during the earliest days of the Great Crusade, suddenly became a battleground where competing visions of humanity's technological future would be decided through fire and blood. The schism within the Adeptus Mechanicus began with a fundamental disagreement about the nature of the Omnissiah and the proper relationship between technology and spiritual authority. Fabricator General Zagreus Cain, the supreme leader of the Mechanicus hierarchy, maintained unwavering loyalty to the Emperor, viewing the master of mankind as the living embodiment of the machine gods made manifest in flesh and steel. Cain represented the orthodox position that had governed Mechanicus doctrine since the Treaty of Mars, arguing that the Emperor's technological mastery and divine nature made him the rightful object of tech priest veneration. His faction emphasized the importance of maintaining existing hierarchical structures and continuing the careful preservation of ancient knowledge under Imperial guidance. In opposition to Cain's orthodox stance, Kelber Hal emerged as the leader of a radical faction that questioned the fundamental assumptions underlying the Mechanicus Imperial alliance. Kelber Hal argued that the Emperor had deliberately suppressed technological advancement to maintain political control over the Mechanicus, pointing to restrictions on artificial intelligence research and limitations on the exploration of certain categories of forbidden knowledge. His followers believed that true technological enlightenment required freedom from Imperial oversight, allowing the tech priesthood to pursue the quest for knowledge without the constraints imposed by Terran political considerations. This faction viewed Horus's rebellion not as betrayal, but as liberation, an opportunity to break free from the shackles that had prevented the Mechanicus from achieving its full potential. The ideological divide between these factions reflected deeper tensions that had been building within the Mechanicus throughout the Great Crusade. Many tech priests had grown frustrated with what they perceived as the Emperor's secretive nature and his reluctance to share certain categories of advanced knowledge with even his most trusted allies. The discovery of standard template construct systems during the Crusade had revealed tantalizing glimpses of dark age of technology capabilities that seemed to exceed anything the Emperor had made available to the Mechanicus, leading some to question whether their supposed divine patron was actually withholding crucial information about humanity's technological heritage. The corruption of Kelber Hal and his followers began subtly, with what appeared to be legitimate theological debates about the nature of technological progress and the proper interpretation of ancient Mechanicus doctrine. The Chaos Gods, particularly Tzeentch and Nurgle, recognized the strategic value of subverting the Imperium's technological infrastructure and began working to exploit the existing tensions within the tech priesthood. Demonic whispers reached the ears of ambitious tech priests, offering forbidden knowledge and promising technological breakthroughs that would elevate them above their orthodox rivals. These corrupting influences often manifested as apparent discoveries of lost STC patterns or ancient archives that contained information too valuable to ignore, despite their questionable origins. The transformation of corrupted forge worlds into centers of heretical technology development proceeded through stages that paralleled the broader corruption of the traitor legions. Initial compromises with forbidden knowledge led to increasingly radical departures from orthodox doctrine, as tech priests convinced themselves that the pursuit of knowledge justified any means necessary to achieve their goals. Forge complexes that had once produced equipment according to carefully maintained STC patterns began experimenting with modifications and enhancements that incorporated demonic influence, warp-based energy sources, and technologies that violated fundamental principles of Imperial engineering doctrine. The creation of demon engines represented the most visible manifestation of this technological corruption, as heretical tech priests learned to bind demonic entities within mechanical constructs that combine the worst aspects of chaos corruption with the destructive potential of advanced Imperial technology. These abominations retained some semblance of their original mechanical nature, while gaining supernatural capabilities that made them far more dangerous than conventional war machines. Demon engines could repair themselves by consuming the life force of nearby enemies. Their weapons could fire projectiles that existed partially in the warp, and their targeting systems could track enemies through supernatural senses that transcended normal physical limitations. The Schism of Mars itself began as a series of seemingly routine political disagreements between different factions of the tech priesthood, but these disputes quickly escalated into open warfare as the true extent of chaos corruption became apparent. Loyalist tech priests discovered that several major forge complexes had been secretly conducting heretical research for months or even years, their activities hidden beneath layers of bureaucratic misdirection and false documentation. The revelation that trusted colleagues had been corrupted by chaos influence sent shockwaves through the remaining orthodox factions, triggering a paranoid atmosphere where any deviation from established doctrine became suspect. The fighting on Mars began in the deep industrial sectors, where the most sensitive research facilities were located, as loyalist Skitarii moved to secure installations that might contain dangerous heretical technology. The narrow corridors and complex machinery of these underground complexes created a nightmarish battlefield where augmented warriors fought desperate battles among the sacred machines they had sworn to protect. The distinctive whine of Law's weapons echoed through forge complexes as red-robed figures exchanged fire across assembly lines and plasma reactors, their mechanical augmentations sparking and failing as they sustained damage from weapons that had been blessed by opposing factions. The heretical forces commanded by Kelber Hal quickly demonstrated the advantages gained through their embrace of forbidden knowledge, deploying demon engines and corrupted war machines that proved devastatingly effective against orthodox Mechanicus forces. These abominations could operate in environments that would disable conventional equipment, their demonic components allowing them to function despite massive battle damage or exposure to exotic energy weapons. Loyalist Skitarii found themselves facing enemies that could regenerate destroyed components through supernatural means, their careful tactical planning rendered useless by opponents who refused to follow the predictable patterns of conventional warfare. The siege warfare that characterized much of the fighting during the Martian Civil War reflected the heavily fortified nature of forge complex architecture, with both sides attempting to capture or destroy critical manufacturing facilities while denying their enemies access to strategic resources. Loyalist forces found themselves defending installations that contained irreplaceable STC patterns and ancient archives, knowing that the loss of these facilities would deal permanent damage to the Mechanicus knowledge base. The heretical forces, meanwhile, sought to capture these same installations intact, hoping to corrupt their contents and turn Imperial manufacturing capacity to serve the cause of chaos. The psychological impact of fighting fellow tech priests proved particularly devastating for Loyalist forces, as warriors who had trained together and served the Omnissiah side by side suddenly found themselves exchanging fire across the sacred forges they had once maintained together. The sight of corrupted tech priests whose augmentations had been twisted by demonic influence created a horror that went beyond mere physical revulsion, representing a fundamental violation of everything the Mechanicus claimed to represent. Loyalist warriors reported seeing former colleagues whose mechanical limbs had fused with demonic flesh, their sacred augmentations transformed into blasphemous hybrid constructs that mocked the purity of the machine. The broader galactic conflict saw individual forge worlds choosing sides based on complex combinations of ideological conviction, political calculation, and the influence of charismatic leaders who could sway entire planetary populations toward loyalty or heresy. Some worlds declared for Horus immediately upon receiving news of his rebellion, their tech priests having been prepared for this moment through months or years of gradual corruption. Other worlds remained loyal to the Emperor despite facing enormous pressure from neighboring systems that had already fallen to chaos influence. Forge World Lucius found itself under siege from a coalition of heretical manufacturing worlds that sought to capture its crystal-growing facilities and Law's weapon production capabilities for the traitor cause. The distinctive gem-like appearance of the planet's surface became obscured by the smoke and debris of orbital bombardment as heretical fleets attempted to break through the Loyalist defensive networks. The tech priests of Lucius fought with desperate determination to protect their sacred crystal farms, knowing that the loss of these facilities would cripple Law's weapon production throughout the Loyalist territories. The siege of Lucius demonstrated the strategic importance of individual Forge World specializations during the broader conflict, as both sides recognized that control over specific manufacturing capabilities could determine the outcome of entire sectors. The heretical forces deployed demon engines, specifically designed to corrupt the delicate crystal-growing processes that made Lucian Law's weapons superior to standard Imperial equipment, their demonic influence threatening to transform the planet's most sacred manufacturing sites into sources of tainted technology. Forge World Ryza faced a different form of threat, as corrupted tech priests attempted to sabotage the plasma containment systems that powered the world's manufacturing operations. The heretical infiltrators sought to trigger catastrophic plasma breaches that would destroy entire forge complexes, while making the disasters appear to be industrial accidents rather than deliberate acts of sabotage. Loyalist security forces found themselves hunting corrupted colleagues through the maze-like plasma conduit networks that honeycombed the planet's surface, their augmented senses straining to detect the subtle signs of chaos corruption among the complex energy signatures generated by normal plasma reactor operations. The technological innovations developed during the heresy reflected the desperate circumstances faced by both sides, as loyalist and heretical tech priests pushed the boundaries of acceptable research in their attempts to gain decisive advantages over their enemies. Loyalist forces developed enhanced anti-demon weaponry and protective systems designed to counter the supernatural abilities of corrupted war machines, while heretical tech priests created increasingly bizarre hybrid technologies that combined Imperial engineering with demonic influence. The dark Mechanicum that emerged from the heresy represented a complete rejection of orthodox Mechanicus doctrine, embracing the pursuit of forbidden knowledge without regard for the consequences of such research. These corrupted tech priests viewed the Chaos Gods not as threats to be resisted, but as sources of enlightenment that could reveal technological secrets beyond the comprehension of their loyalist counterparts. The demon forges established by the Dark Mechanicum produced weapons and equipment that violated fundamental laws of physics, their operation dependent on supernatural forces that could not be understood through conventional scientific analysis. The long-term consequences of the heresy for the surviving loyalist Mechanicus created a culture of paranoia and orthodoxy that would define the organization for the next 10 millennia. The revelation that trusted colleagues could be corrupted by chaos influence led to the implementation of extensive monitoring and purification procedures designed to detect heretical thoughts before they could manifest in dangerous actions. Tech priests found themselves subject to regular doctrinal examinations and spiritual purification rituals, their research activities monitored by orthodox supervisors who possessed the authority to terminate any project that showed signs of deviation from acceptable parameters. The post-heresy Mechanicus developed an almost pathological suspicion of innovation, viewing any departure from established SDC patterns as potentially heretical regardless of the practical benefits such changes might provide. This conservative approach to technological development reflected the traumatic realization that the pursuit of knowledge could lead to damnation rather than enlightenment, making the preservation of existing orthodox doctrine more important than the discovery of new capabilities. The quest for knowledge continued, but within much more restrictive boundaries that emphasized the recovery of lost Imperial technology rather than the development of genuinely novel innovations. The administrative structures of the post-heresy Mechanicus incorporated multiple layers of oversight and verification designed to prevent the kind of gradual corruption that had enabled the rise of Kelber Hal and his followers. Tech priests found themselves required to document their research activities in exhaustive detail, with regular reports submitted to orthodox supervisors who possessed both the technical expertise and doctrinal authority necessary to evaluate potentially dangerous research directions. The collegial atmosphere that had characterized pre-heresy forge complexes gave way to a more hierarchical and suspicious environment where individual initiative was viewed with skepticism rather than encouragement. The technological stagnation that would characterize Imperial civilization for the next 10 millennia had its roots in these post-heresy reforms, as the Mechanicus prioritized doctrinal purity over technological advancement. The careful balance between innovation and orthodoxy that had characterized the Great Crusade era gave way to an overwhelming emphasis on preservation and conformity, creating an institutional culture that viewed change as inherently dangerous regardless of its potential benefits. This transformation ensured the loyalty of the surviving Mechanicus while simultaneously limiting their ability to adapt to new challenges or recover the full technological capabilities of humanity's golden age. The military might of the Forge Worlds represents a fusion of technological supremacy and religious fervor that creates some of the most formidable fighting forces in the Imperium. These armies serve not merely as defensive formations protecting valuable industrial assets, but as projection forces that advance the interests of the Adeptus Mechanicus across the galaxy, while spreading the influence of the cult Mechanicus to distant worlds. The integration of advanced technology with unwavering doctrinal conviction produces warriors and war machines that embody the Mechanicus belief in the superiority of blessed steel over weak flesh, their capabilities enhanced through cybernetic augmentation and equipped with weaponry that represents the pinnacle of Imperial manufacturing expertise. The Skitarii legions form the backbone of Forge World military power, their ranks filled with warriors who have undergone extensive cybernetic enhancement to transform them from baseline humans into living weapons optimized for specific battlefield roles. These augmented soldiers represent the practical application of Mechanicus doctrine that views the human form as merely raw material to be improved through technological intervention. The transformation process begins with promising candidates selected from Forge World populations, individuals who demonstrate both physical capability and the mental discipline necessary to integrate successfully with advanced cybernetic systems. The augmentation procedures replace biological limitations with mechanical precision, installing enhanced sensory systems that can track targets across vast distances, mechanical limbs that never tire or falter, and neural interfaces that allow seamless coordination with battlefield command networks. Skitarii Rangers embody the reconnaissance and long-range combat capabilities of Forge World armies, their forms extensively modified for stealth operations and precision marksmanship. These warriors undergo augmentation procedures that replace their eyes with advanced optical systems capable of magnifying distant targets while filtering out environmental interference that would blind unaugmented humans. Their respiratory systems are replaced with mechanical alternatives that can function in hostile atmospheres, allowing Rangers to operate in environments contaminated by toxic gases or exotic radiation that would prove lethal to conventional troops. The signature hooded cloaks worn by Rangers incorporate advanced camouflage systems that can adapt their appearance to match surrounding terrain, while their galvanic rifles fire precision shots guided by targeting systems that account for wind speed, atmospheric density, and gravitational variations. The battlefield deployment of Skitarii Rangers reflects their specialized role as advanced scouts and elimination specialists, with small teams infiltrating enemy territory to gather intelligence and eliminate high-value targets before the main assault begins. Their enhanced sensory systems allow them to detect enemy movements from kilometers away, while their mechanical augmentations enable them to remain motionless for hours or even days while waiting for optimal firing opportunities. The distinctive crack of galvanic rifle fire often serves as the opening shot of Forge World military operations, as Ranger teams eliminate enemy commanders and communication specialists to disrupt defensive coordination before Vanguard forces advance to close range. Skitarii Vanguard represent the assault troops of Forge World armies, their augmentations optimized for close-range combat in the most hostile environments imaginable. These warriors undergo more extensive modification than their Ranger counterparts, their bodies rebuilt to withstand exposure to radioactive materials, corrosive chemicals, and exotic energy weapons that would quickly kill unprotected humans. Their respiratory systems are completely replaced with mechanical alternatives that can filter out airborne toxins, while their skeletal structures are reinforced with metal supports that can bear loads far exceeding normal human limitations. The radium weapons carried by Vanguard troops fire ammunition that remains lethally radioactive long after impact, creating contaminated zones that deny territory to enemy forces, while the radiation has no effect on the heavily augmented Skitarii themselves. The tactical doctrine employed by Vanguard formations emphasizes aggressive advancement through terrain that conventional forces would consider impassable, using their resistance to environmental hazards to outflank enemy positions and attack from unexpected directions. Their augmented physiology allows them to advance through areas contaminated by their own radioactive ammunition, creating corridors of approach that remain available to Mechanicus forces while becoming increasingly deadly to enemy troops attempting to contest the same ground. The sight of Vanguard warriors advancing through clouds of radioactive dust, their mechanical breathing apparatus creating rhythmic hissing sounds as they methodically eliminate resistance, has become synonymous with the inexorable advance of Forge World military power. Specialized Skitarii formations incorporate even more extensive augmentations tailored to specific battlefield roles, creating elite units whose capabilities exceed those of standard Rangers and Vanguard. Sicarian infiltrators undergo modifications that emphasize stealth and close-quarters assassination, their limbs replaced with mechanical alternatives that can extend razor-sharp blades or inject lethal toxins into enemy targets. These warriors can move through enemy positions with mechanical silence, their footsteps producing no sound, while their enhanced sensory systems allow them to navigate in complete darkness. The neurostatic aura projected by their equipment disrupts enemy communications and targeting systems, creating zones of electronic interference that prevent coordinated responses to their attacks. Sicarian ruststalkers represent the most aggressive close combat specialists within Skitarii formations, their bodies extensively rebuilt to serve as living weapons optimized for melee combat. Their limbs are replaced with mechanical alternatives that incorporate retractable blades, while their sensory systems are enhanced with targeting algorithms that can identify weak points in enemy armor and predict opponent movements with mechanical precision. The transonic weapons wielded by ruststalkers vibrate at frequencies that can shatter molecular bonds in enemy equipment, allowing their blades to cut through armor that would deflect conventional weapons, while the sonic disruption disorients targets and interferes with their ability to coordinate defensive responses. The god machines of the Titan legions represent the ultimate expression of Forge World military might, their towering forms combining devastating firepower with the spiritual significance of walking temples dedicated to the Omnissiah. These colossal war engines embody the Mechanicus belief in the fusion of technology and divine will, their machine spirits possessing consciousness and personality that transcends mere artificial intelligence. The relationship between Titans and their Princeps crews creates bonds that go beyond simple pilot-vehicle interaction, establishing spiritual connections that allow human consciousness to merge with mechanical intelligence in ways that approach mystical union. Scout Titans serve as the eyes and fast attack elements of Titan Legion operations, their relatively modest size allowing for rapid deployment and maneuverability that larger god machines cannot match. The Warhound-class Scout Titan stands approximately 14 meters tall, its bipedal form mounting weapon systems that would serve as primary armament for super-heavy tanks while maintaining the speed and agility necessary for reconnaissance missions. The plasma blast gun mounted on many Warhounds can vaporize enemy vehicles with single shots, while their void shield generators provide protection equivalent to that found on cruiser-class starships. The machine spirit inhabiting each Warhound possesses a predatory intelligence that complements the hunting instincts of its princeps, creating a partnership between human intuition and mechanical precision that makes these god machines devastatingly effective in their scouting role. The princeps who command Scout Titans undergo years of training to develop the mental discipline necessary for successful interface with their god machines, learning to suppress their individual consciousness enough to allow the Titan's machine spirit to influence their decision-making while maintaining sufficient human awareness to provide strategic direction. This delicate balance requires exceptional psychological stability, as princeps who allow the machine's spirit too much control risk losing their humanity entirely, while those who resist the connection cannot achieve the level of integration necessary for optimal battlefield performance. The neural interface systems that enable this connection create permanent changes in princeps physiology, installing cybernetic implants that allow direct mental communication with Titan systems, while gradually replacing biological neural pathways with mechanical alternatives. Battle Titans represent the primary heavy assault capability of Titan legions, their massive forms mounting weapon systems capable of destroying enemy formations with single volleys, while their armor protection can withstand direct hits from the heaviest enemy weapons. The Reaver-class Battle Titan towers over 30 meters in height, its weapon hardpoints capable of mounting apocalypse missiles, volcano cannons, and other systems that can eliminate enemy super-heavy vehicles or level fortifications with devastating efficiency. The machine spirits inhabiting Battle Titans possess more complex personalities than their Scout Titan counterparts, often displaying tactical preferences and behavioral quirks that their princeps crews must learn to accommodate while directing their god machines in combat. The crew requirements for Battle Titans extend beyond the single princeps who serves as primary commander, incorporating Moderati who assist with weapon control and system management, while servitors handle routine maintenance and ammunition loading. This expanded crew creates a more complex command structure that requires careful coordination to achieve optimal performance, with each crew member developing specialized expertise in particular Titan systems, while maintaining awareness of how their responsibilities integrate with overall battlefield objectives. The years of training required to produce effective battle Titan crews represent significant investments by Forge Worlds, making the loss of experienced personnel almost as devastating as the destruction of the god machines themselves. Emperor-class Titans stand as the largest and most powerful war engines in Imperial service, their colossal forms reaching heights of over 50 meters, while mounting weapon systems that can engage enemy formations at ranges measured in dozens of kilometers. These god machines serve as mobile command centers and strategic weapons platforms, their bridge facilities accommodating command staff who can coordinate entire battle groups, while their sensor arrays provide battlefield awareness that extends far beyond visual range. The construction of a single Emperor Titan requires decades of work by master artificers, with each god machine representing a unique creation that incorporates the finest materials and most advanced technologies available to its parent Forge world. The machine spirits inhabiting Emperor Titans possess consciousness that approaches true artificial intelligence, their complex personalities shaped by millennia of combat experience and the accumulated memories of previous Princeps crews. These ancient intelligences often display preferences for particular tactical approaches or weapon configurations, requiring their current Princeps to negotiate rather than simply command when directing the god machine in battle. The mental strain of interfacing with such powerful machine spirits proves overwhelming for many potential Princeps, limiting the pool of candidates capable of commanding Emperor Titans to individuals with exceptional psychological resilience and spiritual devotion to the Omnissiah. Knight houses sworn to individual Forge worlds add another dimension to their military capabilities, bringing feudal traditions and noble warrior codes that complement the technological focus of Mechanicus military doctrine. These ancient institutions trace their origins to the Age of Strife, when human colonies developed feudal societies centered around the maintenance and operation of night war suits discovered in abandoned facilities. The integration of knight houses with Forge world hierarchies creates complex relationships that blend military alliance with technological dependence, as the houses require Mechanicus expertise to maintain their war suits, while the Forge worlds benefit from the combat capabilities and territorial resources controlled by noble families. The feudal obligations that bind knight houses to their patron, Forge worlds operate through carefully negotiated agreements that respect the traditional autonomy of noble families, while ensuring their military support for Mechanicus operations. These arrangements typically involve the provision of technical expertise and spare components for knight maintenance in exchange for military service during Forge world campaigns and access to resources controlled by house territories. The knight pilots who operate these war suits undergo training that combines traditional martial disciplines with technical education in the operation of their sophisticated equipment, creating warriors who embody both noble tradition and technological mastery. Quaestor Mechanicus forces represent knight houses that have fully integrated with Mechanicus hierarchy, their noble traditions subordinated to the technological doctrine of the cult Mechanicus, while maintaining their distinctive combat capabilities. These formations deploy knight war suits equipped with the most advanced weapon systems available to Forge world manufacturers, their firepower enhanced through access to specialized ammunition and targeting systems that exceed the capabilities of standard knight equipment. The pilots of Quaestor Mechanicus knights undergo augmentation procedures similar to those performed on Skitarii warriors, their bodies modified to improve interface efficiency with their war suits, while their minds are conditioned to accept Mechanicus doctrine alongside traditional house teachings. Ordinatus siege engines represent the most specialized and devastating weapons in Forge world arsenals, their massive forms designed to destroy specific categories of targets that prove resistant to conventional assault methods. These enormous constructs combine the firepower of Titan-class weapons, with specialized systems optimized for particular tactical situations, creating war machines that can eliminate enemy fortifications, void shields, or super heavy formations that would survive attacks from standard military equipment. The Ordinatus Armageddon mounts a plasma destructor capable of creating localized fusion reactions that can vaporize entire city blocks, while the Ordinatus Mars carries a sonic destructor that can shatter molecular bonds in enemy fortifications through precisely tuned acoustic waves. The deployment of Ordinatus engines requires extensive logistical support and careful tactical planning, as these massive weapons represent significant resource investments that cannot be risked in routine combat operations. Each Ordinatus is essentially unique, its construction incorporating specialized components and advanced technologies that reflect the particular expertise of its parent Forge world, while addressing specific tactical requirements identified through intelligence analysis of target objectives. The crews required to operate these weapons undergo years of specialized training, their education encompassing not only the technical requirements of their equipment, but also the tactical doctrine necessary for effective employment of such powerful weapons. Cadaphran battle servitors provide heavy weapons support for Skitarii formations, their extensively modified forms mounting weapon systems too large and powerful for standard infantry to carry effectively. These cybernetic constructs represent the ultimate expression of Mechanicus belief in the replacement of weak flesh with blessed machinery, their original human components reduced to basic life support functions, while mechanical systems handle all combat-related activities. The heavy grav cannons and plasma culverins mounted on Cadaphran units can engage enemy armor at ranges that keep them safe from return fire, while their tracked locomotion systems allow them to traverse terrain that would prove impassable for conventional vehicles. The creation of Cadaphran servitors involves extensive surgical procedures that remove most biological components while installing the mechanical systems necessary for their combat role, transforming volunteer subjects into living weapons platforms that retain minimal human consciousness. These procedures represent the logical endpoint of Mechanicus augmentation philosophy, creating warriors who have transcended biological limitations entirely while maintaining just enough organic components to avoid the artificial intelligence restrictions that govern purely mechanical constructs. The tactical deployment of Cadaphran units emphasizes their role as mobile heavy weapons platforms, their firepower supporting Skitarii advances, while their mechanical nature allows them to operate in environments that would prove lethal to less extensively augmented troops. Tech Priest Dominus formations provide command and control capabilities for Forge World military operations. Their enhanced cognitive abilities and advanced communication systems, allowing them to coordinate complex multi-unit engagements, while their personal combat capabilities make them formidable opponents in direct confrontation. These senior tech priests undergo augmentation procedures that enhance their analytical capabilities and reaction times, while installing weapon systems that can eliminate enemy targets with precision that exceeds even Skitarii standards. The Volkite blasters and eradication rays wielded by Tech Priest Dominus can vaporize enemy infantry or disable vehicle systems with single shots, while their conversion fields provide protection that can deflect incoming fire or transform kinetic energy into harmless light displays. The battlefield role of Tech Priest Dominus extends beyond simple command functions to encompass technical support and equipment maintenance that keeps Forge World forces operating at peak efficiency throughout extended campaigns. Their advanced diagnostic systems can identify and repair equipment malfunctions that would disable conventional military units, while their understanding of machine spirit psychology allows them to coax optimal performance from war machines whose temperamental nature might otherwise compromise mission effectiveness. The presence of Tech Priest Dominus on the battlefield provides both tactical leadership and spiritual guidance that reinforces the religious conviction of Skitarii troops, while ensuring that complex military equipment continues functioning despite the stresses of combat operations. The sacred mission that drives explorator fleets beyond the borders of known space represents the purest expression of the Mechanicus doctrine, embodying the fundamental belief that knowledge is the highest form of worship and that the recovery of lost technology serves the will of the Omnissiah. These expeditions venture into the galaxy's most dangerous regions, seeking standard template construct systems buried in the ruins of Dark Age colonies, investigating archaeological sites that might contain fragments of humanity's technological golden age, and establishing footholds on worlds suitable for future Forge World development. The quest for knowledge that motivates these dangerous journeys transcends mere scientific curiosity, representing a religious imperative that compels tech priests to risk their lives in pursuit of technological artifacts that could advance human civilization by millennia. Explorator fleets operate as self-contained expeditionary forces, combining the specialized expertise of tech priests with the military protection necessary to survive in hostile territories beyond Imperial control. The typical fleet includes heavily modified exploration vessels equipped with advanced sensor arrays capable of detecting technological signatures across vast distances, their hulls reinforced to withstand the exotic hazards encountered in unexplored space. These ships carry extensive archaeological equipment, specimen containment systems, and mobile forge facilities that allow the fleet to analyze discoveries without returning to established forge worlds. The crews of explorator vessels undergo extensive augmentation beyond standard tech priest modifications, their bodies adapted for extended void travel and equipped with specialized sensory systems optimized for detecting ancient technology. The command structure of explorator expeditions centers around the Magos Explorator, senior tech priests whose expertise encompasses not only technological analysis, but also the military leadership necessary to coordinate complex operations in hostile environments. These individuals typically possess decades of experience in archaeological research combined with proven combat capabilities, their augmented forms incorporating advanced analytical systems alongside weapon platforms capable of eliminating threats to their expeditions. The selection process for Magos Explorator positions involves rigorous testing of both technical knowledge and psychological stability, as these leaders must maintain doctrinal orthodoxy while making critical decisions in situations where standard protocols provide insufficient guidance. Beneath the Magos Explorator, specialized tech priests fill roles tailored to the unique requirements of exploration missions. Tech archaeologists focus on the identification and analysis of ancient technological artifacts, their training encompassing not only standard Mechanicus doctrine, but also specialized knowledge of pre-Imperial human civilizations and the archaeological techniques necessary to extract maximum information from damaged or corrupted sites. These specialists undergo additional augmentation procedures that enhance their analytical capabilities while installing specialized equipment for handling potentially dangerous artifacts, including containment fields that can isolate corrupted technology and purification systems that can cleanse contaminated specimens. Lex mechanics serve as the expedition's primary data analysts and archival specialists, their enhanced cognitive systems capable of processing vast amounts of information while identifying patterns that might indicate the presence of valuable technology. These tech priests maintain the expedition's knowledge databases and coordinate communication with distant forge worlds, their responsibilities including the preparation of detailed reports on discoveries and the maintenance of secure communication protocols that prevent sensitive information from falling into unauthorized hands. The augmentations common among Lex mechanics emphasize memory enhancement and data processing capabilities, often including direct neural interfaces with shipboard cogitator systems that allow them to access and analyze information at superhuman speeds. Tech Marines assigned to explorator fleets provide the military expertise necessary to protect valuable archaeological sites and establish defensive perimeters around active excavation operations. These warriors combine standard Skitarii augmentations with specialized equipment designed for operating in unknown environments, their gear selected for maximum reliability and effectiveness against unfamiliar threats. The training regimen for explorator Tech Marines emphasizes adaptability and independent operation, as these forces often find themselves engaged with Xeno species whose capabilities and tactics differ significantly from known Imperial enemies. The integration of Imperial Guard units and Space Marine detachments into explorator expeditions creates complex command relationships that require careful management to maintain operational effectiveness. Guard regiments assigned to exploration duties typically consist of veteran formations with extensive experience in hostile environment operations, their equipment modified to function effectively in the exotic conditions encountered on unexplored worlds. These troops provide the manpower necessary for large-scale excavation operations, while serving as a defensive screen that allows tech priests to focus on their archaeological work without constant concern for immediate security threats. Space Marine support for explorator missions usually involves small detachments of specialists rather than full companies, with individual squads providing elite strike capabilities and technical expertise that complement the expedition's primary mission. These Astartes often possess specialized knowledge of xenoarchaeology or ancient human technology, their enhanced physiology and advanced equipment making them ideal for investigating sites too dangerous for less extensively augmented personnel. The presence of Space Marines on explorator expeditions also provides a degree of political protection, as their involvement demonstrates Imperial interest in the mission while deterring potential interference from rival factions. The specialized vessels that serve as platforms for explorator operations represent some of the most advanced ships in Imperial service, their designs incorporating technologies and capabilities unavailable to standard Navy vessels. Explorator ships feature enhanced sensor arrays capable of detecting technological signatures through planetary crusts or across interstellar distances. Their detection systems calibrated to identify the specific energy patterns associated with standard template construct systems and other valuable archaeological targets. The ship's laboratories and analysis facilities rival those found on major Forge worlds, equipped with containment systems capable of safely storing dangerous artifacts while providing the analytical tools necessary for preliminary examination of discoveries. The archaeotech recovery protocols employed by explorator fleets reflect millennia of accumulated experience in handling potentially dangerous ancient technology, with standardized procedures designed to minimize the risk of corruption or catastrophic failure during artifact recovery operations. Initial contact with suspected STC sites involves extensive remote sensing to identify potential hazards, followed by the deployment of expendable servo skulls and automated probes that can gather preliminary data without risking valuable personnel. Only after thorough analysis of remote sensing data do tech priests approach archaeological sites directly, their equipment including portable void shields and purification fields that can protect against common forms of technological corruption. The excavation techniques employed at major archaeological sites combine advanced Imperial technology with careful adherence to doctrinal requirements for handling sacred artifacts. Explorator teams use gravitics manipulators and molecular disassemblers to remove debris without damaging underlying structures, while portable cogitator arrays analyze soil composition and structural integrity to guide excavation efforts. The actual recovery of technological artifacts requires elaborate ritual procedures that blend practical safety measures with religious observances, ensuring that ancient technologies are treated with appropriate reverence while minimizing the risk of accidental activation or corruption. Significant discoveries made by explorator expeditions throughout Imperial history demonstrate both the potential rewards and inherent dangers of the quest for knowledge. The recovery of the Omnissiah's hammer STC pattern during the 32nd millennium provided Imperial forces with improved power weapon designs that enhanced the combat effectiveness of Space Marine and Imperial Guard units across multiple sectors. The excavation required 3 years of careful work on a world devastated by orc invasions, with explorator teams operating under constant threat of greenskin attack while extracting the precious data from buried archive systems that had survived millennia of neglect. The discovery of the Ryza pattern plasma gun specifications during the 35th millennium revolutionized Imperial energy weapon capabilities, providing manufacturing templates that allowed Forge Worlds to produce plasma weapons with significantly improved reliability and power output. The archaeological site containing these templates had been buried beneath volcanic ash for over 4,000 years, requiring specialized excavation techniques to reach the intact archive chambers without triggering the automated defense systems that still functioned after millennia of dormancy. The successful recovery of this technology required the sacrifice of 17 tech priests who died when ancient security protocols activated, their deaths considered acceptable losses given the immense value of the recovered knowledge. The establishment of new Forge Worlds through explorator expeditions follows carefully developed protocols that balance the need for rapid industrial development with the doctrinal requirements for proper technological implementation. Suitable worlds must possess abundant mineral resources, stable geological conditions, and strategic locations that support both defensive requirements and supply line maintenance. The initial colonization process begins with the establishment of fortified landing sites equipped with prefabricated forge facilities and defensive installations, creating secure bases from which larger industrial complexes can be constructed over time. The transformation of candidate worlds into functional Forge Worlds requires decades of intensive development, with explorator fleets providing the initial expertise and resources necessary to establish basic manufacturing capabilities. The colonists who settle these new worlds typically include experienced tech priests from established Forge Worlds, their knowledge and skills providing the foundation for developing local industrial capacity. These founding populations undergo extensive screening to ensure doctrinal purity and technical competence, as the establishment of new Forge Worlds represents significant investments that cannot be compromised by incompetent or potentially heretical personnel. The dangers faced by explorator fleets extend far beyond the conventional hazards of void travel and hostile environment operations, encompassing threats that can corrupt or destroy entire expeditions if proper precautions are not maintained. Xenospecies encountered in unexplored regions often possess technologies that violate Imperial understanding of physical laws, their weapons and defensive systems presenting challenges that cannot be countered through conventional tactical approaches. Orc infestations on worlds containing valuable archaeological sites create ongoing security problems that require constant vigilance, as greenskin forces show particular interest in looting ancient human technology for incorporation into their own crude but effective war machines. Eldar interference with explorator operations presents particularly complex challenges, as these ancient Xenos often possess detailed knowledge of human archaeological sites and may intervene to prevent Imperial recovery of specific technologies. The motivations behind Eldar actions remain largely incomprehensible to Imperial commanders, but their interventions frequently involve the destruction of valuable artifacts or the elimination of explorator personnel who approach sites of particular significance. The advanced technology employed by Eldar forces makes direct confrontation extremely costly, requiring explorator fleets to develop sophisticated countermeasures and evasion tactics that allow them to complete their missions despite Xenos' opposition. Chaos corruption represents the most insidious threat to explorator operations, as the pursuit of forbidden knowledge can lead tech priests to compromise their doctrinal principles in pursuit of technological advancement. Ancient human sites sometimes contain artifacts tainted by warp exposure or deliberate corruption, their apparent technological value masking spiritual dangers that can corrupt entire expeditions if proper purification protocols are not followed. The identification of chaos-tainted technology requires extensive training and spiritual preparation, as corrupted artifacts often appear identical to legitimate archaeological specimens until their true nature is revealed through detailed analysis. The temptation to study forbidden technologies for their potential scientific value creates ongoing tensions within explorator expeditions, as individual tech priests may rationalize minor doctrinal violations as necessary for advancing human knowledge. These seemingly minor compromises can escalate into full heretical corruption if not identified and suppressed by expedition leadership, making constant vigilance against doctrinal deviation an essential component of explorator operations. The investigation of suspected corruption within expedition personnel requires careful balance between maintaining operational security and ensuring that valuable specialists are not eliminated based on unfounded suspicions. Necron tomb worlds present unique challenges for explorator operations, as these ancient sites contain technologies that exceed human capabilities by orders of magnitude, while being protected by automated defense systems of terrifying effectiveness. The few successful investigations of Necron sites have yielded artifacts whose analysis has advanced Imperial understanding of physics and engineering, but such operations invariably result in massive casualties and often trigger awakening processes that threaten entire sectors. The protocols governing explorator contact with Necron sites emphasize extreme caution and immediate withdrawal upon detection of active defense systems, though the potential rewards of successful investigation continue to attract ambitious tech priests despite the enormous risks involved. The analysis and integration of recovered technologies requires extensive testing and verification procedures designed to ensure that new discoveries can be safely incorporated into Imperial manufacturing systems without compromising existing capabilities or introducing dangerous vulnerabilities. Newly discovered STC patterns undergo years of careful study before being approved for general distribution, with test implementations conducted on isolated worlds where potential failures cannot threaten critical Imperial installations. The conservative approach to technology integration reflects hard-learned lessons about the dangers of hasty implementation, as several historical disasters resulted from the premature adoption of incompletely understood technologies. The political implications of major technological discoveries create additional complications for explorator operations, as different forge worlds compete for access to valuable artifacts while attempting to maintain the cooperative relationships necessary for continued exploration efforts. The distribution of newly discovered technologies must balance the legitimate interests of expedition sponsors against broader Imperial strategic requirements, often requiring complex negotiations between multiple forge worlds and Imperial administrative authorities. The most significant discoveries may be classified at the highest levels of Imperial security, their existence known only to a select few individuals who possess both the necessary clearances and the technical expertise required for proper evaluation. The intricate network of technological exchange that binds the forge worlds together operates as the circulatory system of Imperial manufacturing, carrying specialized knowledge, rare materials, and finished products across vast distances to maintain the complex industrial ecosystem that keeps humanity's war machine functioning. This web of interdependence has evolved over 10 millennia into a sophisticated system where each forge world's unique capabilities create both opportunities for mutual benefit and potential vulnerabilities that could cascade through the entire Mechanicus hierarchy if critical nodes were compromised. The trading relationships that emerge from these specializations reflect not only practical manufacturing requirements, but also the political dynamics that govern interactions between different tech priest hierarchies. The complexity of inter-Forge World trade begins with the fundamental reality that no single manufacturing center, regardless of its size or technological sophistication, can produce every category of equipment required by Imperial military forces. Mars itself, despite its vast industrial capacity and comprehensive SDC archives, depends on specialized materials and components produced on distant worlds to maintain its production schedules. The rare earth elements required for advanced cogitator systems come primarily from mining worlds in the galactic fringe, while the exotic crystals needed for La's weapon-focusing arrays can only be grown under the specific atmospheric conditions found on a handful of specialized worlds. Forge World Lucius has leveraged its mastery of crystal cultivation technology into a dominant position in the La's weapon trade that extends far beyond simple manufacturing relationships. The crystalline focusing arrays produced in Lucian growth facilities require precise environmental controls and specialized nutrient solutions that incorporate elements found only in the planet's unique geological formations. These crystals cannot be replicated elsewhere despite centuries of attempts by rival Forge worlds, creating a monopoly that allows Lucius to dictate terms for La's weapon components throughout Imperial space. The tech priests of Lucius have carefully guarded the secrets of their crystal cultivation processes, ensuring that even their closest trading partners receive only finished components rather than the knowledge necessary to establish competing production facilities. The trading relationships built around Lucian crystal technology demonstrate how technological specialization creates complex webs of dependency that extend throughout the Imperial military hierarchy. Imperial Guard regiments equipped with Lucian La's weapons require regular shipments of replacement power cells and focusing elements that can only be obtained through Mechanicus supply channels, creating ongoing relationships that bind military units to specific Forge World suppliers. Space Marine chapters that have invested in Lucian weapon systems find themselves dependent on continued access to specialized components, making them stakeholders in maintaining good relationships between their home regions and the crystal-producing worlds. Forge World Ryza's dominance in plasma technology creates different but equally complex trading relationships, as the magnetic containment systems and plasma coils required for these weapons demand materials and manufacturing techniques that few other worlds can provide. The specialized alloys used in plasma weapon construction must be forged under extreme conditions that combine stellar core temperatures with precise magnetic field manipulation, requiring industrial facilities that represent massive capital investments. The tech priests of Ryza have developed these capabilities over millennia, their expertise encompassing not only the theoretical principles governing plasma containment, but also the practical engineering knowledge necessary to manufacture reliable weapons that can withstand the stresses of combat deployment. The plasma reactor technology that powers much of Imperial industry creates another dimension of Ryzen influence, as these power systems require regular maintenance and component replacement that can only be performed by tech priests trained in the specific procedures developed on Ryza. The magnetic containment rings that prevent catastrophic plasma breaches must be manufactured to tolerances measured in molecular distances, while the control systems that regulate plasma flow incorporate cogitator algorithms that remain closely guarded secrets of the Ryzen tech priesthood. This technological dependency ensures that worlds relying on plasma power systems maintain ongoing relationships with Ryza, creating a network of influence that extends far beyond simple weapons manufacturing. The heavy vehicle production capabilities concentrated on Forge World Metallica illustrate how manufacturing specialization creates regional centers of influence that can dominate entire sectors of Imperial space. The massive industrial complexes required for tank and artillery production represent investments that span centuries, their assembly lines incorporating specialized equipment that cannot be easily replicated elsewhere. The gravitics cranes used to manipulate multi-ton armor plates require exotic materials and advanced control systems, while the precision welding equipment necessary for creating seamless ceramic joints demands maintenance expertise that takes decades to develop fully. Metallican vehicle production extends beyond simple assembly operations to encompass the entire supply chain required for heavy manufacturing, from the mining operations that extract raw materials to the testing facilities where finished vehicles undergo combat trials. The planet's tech priests have established relationships with dozens of supplier worlds that provide everything from basic steel ingots to sophisticated targeting systems, creating a network of dependencies that makes Metallica the natural coordination point for Imperial Guard mechanized units throughout its region of influence. When Imperial commanders require large numbers of battle tanks for major campaigns, they inevitably find themselves negotiating with Metallican representatives who control access to the most advanced armored fighting vehicles available to Imperial forces. The shipbuilding expertise concentrated on worlds like Vos Prime creates some of the most complex and valuable trading relationships within the Mechanicus hierarchy, as void ship construction requires components and materials from dozens of different sources. The plasma drives that propel Imperial vessels through space incorporate technology from multiple forge worlds, with Ryza plasma reactors providing power, while Lucian crystal arrays focus the energy streams, and Metallican heavy manufacturing produces the structural components that can withstand the enormous stresses generated by interstellar travel. The coordination required to bring these diverse technologies together in functional starships creates ongoing relationships between shipbuilding worlds and their suppliers that can span decades for individual vessel construction projects. The void shield generators that protect Imperial ships represent another category of specialized technology that creates complex trading relationships, as these defensive systems require exotic materials and manufacturing techniques that push the boundaries of Imperial engineering capabilities. The field projectors that create protective barriers around starships incorporate crystalline matrices similar to those used in Law's weapon systems, but with modifications that allow them to deflect energy weapons and physical projectiles across a much wider range of frequencies and impact velocities. The tech priests who specialize in void shield technology must coordinate with multiple supplier worlds to obtain the components necessary for their systems, creating supply chains that can stretch across entire segmentums. Titan production represents the pinnacle of inter-forge world cooperation, as these massive war engines require components and expertise from virtually every category of Imperial manufacturing. The adamantium skeleton that supports a Titan's enormous weight must be forged using techniques developed on worlds specializing in exotic metallurgy, while the plasma reactors that power these god machines incorporate the most advanced energy generation technology available to the Mechanicus. The neural interface systems that allow princeps to control their Titans require cogitator components manufactured to specifications that exceed those used in any other Imperial technology, their complexity demanding the highest levels of technical expertise available within the tech priesthood. The machine spirits that inhabit Titan systems create additional complications for the trading relationships involved in god-machine construction, as these artificial intelligences require specialized programming and conditioning that can only be performed by tech priests with decades of experience in machine spirit psychology. The process of awakening a new Titan's consciousness involves elaborate rituals that combine technological procedures with religious observances, creating a birthing process that requires coordination between multiple specialist groups. The tech priests responsible for machine spirit cultivation must work closely with their counterparts in weapon systems, structural engineering, and power generation to ensure that the emerging consciousness can successfully integrate with all aspects of the Titan's complex systems. The economic relationships between Forge Worlds and the broader Imperial hierarchy create additional layers of complexity in the trading networks that govern technological exchange. The Administratum maintains oversight of resource allocation for major Imperial projects, their bureaucrats attempting to balance competing demands for scarce materials and manufacturing capacity while ensuring that critical military requirements receive appropriate priority. The massive data processing requirements involved in tracking resource flows across thousands of worlds create employment for countless scribes and analysts, their work supporting the administrative infrastructure that keeps Imperial industry functioning despite its enormous complexity. The Ecclesiarchy's relationship with Forge World production creates another dimension of political complexity, as the Imperial cult's requirements for ceremonial equipment and religious artifacts must be balanced against military production priorities. The ornate power weapons carried by high-ranking Ecclesiarchy officials require the same specialized manufacturing techniques used for military equipment, while the massive cathedral ships that serve as mobile centers of Imperial faith incorporate void ship technology comparable to that found in Navy battleships. The tech priests responsible for producing religious equipment must navigate the theological requirements imposed by Ecclesiarchy doctrine while maintaining the technical standards expected of Mechanicus manufacturing. Space Marine chapters represent some of the most demanding customers for Forge World products, as their enhanced physiology and elite status require equipment that exceeds standard Imperial specifications in every measurable category. The power armor worn by Astartes warriors incorporates technologies that push the boundaries of Imperial manufacturing capabilities, their servo motors and life support systems requiring components manufactured to tolerances that exceed those used in most vehicle production. The bolt weapons favored by Space Marines demand specialized ammunition that incorporates microcogitators and explosive charges, creating ongoing supply relationships that can span centuries as chapters maintain their equipment through successive campaigns. The political relationships between individual Forge Worlds and Space Marine chapters often transcend simple commercial transactions, evolving into bonds of mutual obligation that can influence strategic decision-making on both sides. Chapters that have received exceptional equipment or technical support from particular Forge Worlds may prioritize the defense of those worlds when making deployment decisions, while Forge Worlds may offer preferential pricing or priority access to new technologies for chapters that have proven reliable allies. These relationships create informal networks of influence that can significantly impact Imperial military effectiveness, as the coordination between well-equipped Astartes forces and their Mechanicus supporters often produces results that exceed what either organization could achieve independently. The rare materials trade that supports advanced manufacturing creates some of the most valuable and closely guarded trading relationships within the Imperial economy. Adamantium, the virtually indestructible metal used in the most critical applications, can only be produced under specific conditions that combine extreme temperatures with exotic radiation exposure, limiting its manufacture to a handful of specialized facilities. The worlds that control adamantium production wield influence far exceeding their apparent strategic importance, as access to this material determines which Forge Worlds can produce Terminator armor, Titan components, and the structural elements required for the largest starships. Promethium, the refined fuel that powers much of Imperial technology, creates another category of strategic resource that influences trading relationships throughout the galaxy. The refining processes required to produce military-grade promethium from raw petroleum deposits demand sophisticated chemical facilities and extensive quality control procedures, as contaminated fuel can disable entire vehicle formations or cause catastrophic explosions in starship fuel systems. The worlds that specialize in promethium production maintain extensive testing laboratories and quality assurance programs, their tech priests developing expertise in hydrocarbon chemistry that rivals their knowledge of more exotic technologies. The knowledge trade that operates alongside material exchange represents one of the most sensitive aspects of inter-Forge World relationships, as the sharing of technological information must be carefully balanced against the need to maintain competitive advantages and prevent the spread of potentially dangerous innovations. Standard template construct patterns represent the most valuable category of tradable knowledge, but their exchange requires approval from the highest levels of Mechanicus hierarchy and often involves complex negotiations that can take years to complete. The discovery of new STC fragments creates opportunities for advantageous trades, as Forge Worlds possessing unique patterns can negotiate access to technologies they cannot produce independently. The manufacturing techniques that enable efficient production represent another category of valuable knowledge that creates ongoing trading relationships between Forge Worlds with complementary expertise. The assembly line configurations that allow rapid vehicle production, the quality control procedures that ensure consistent ammunition performance, and the maintenance protocols that extend equipment service life all represent intellectual property that can be exchanged for access to other specialized knowledge. The tech priests who develop these innovations must balance the benefits of sharing their expertise against the competitive advantages that exclusive knowledge provides, creating complex calculations that influence their willingness to participate in knowledge exchange programs. The logistics networks that support inter-Forge World trade require massive investments in transportation infrastructure and security systems, as the valuable cargoes moving between manufacturing centers represent attractive targets for pirates, Xenos raiders, and chaos cultists. The merchant fleets that carry finished goods and raw materials between Forge Worlds operate under heavy escort, their routes carefully planned to avoid known danger zones while maintaining acceptable delivery schedules. The void ships that specialize in high-value cargo transport incorporate advanced defensive systems and sophisticated concealment technology, their crews trained in evasion tactics and emergency procedures that can preserve valuable shipments even when direct combat becomes unavoidable. The security protocols that protect these vital trade networks become meaningless when faced with the existential threats that have plagued Forge Worlds throughout the 41st millennium. The constant menace of orc invasions represents one of the most persistent dangers facing manufacturing centers across Imperial space, as greenskin forces show particular fascination with advanced Imperial technology and the potential for acquiring new weapons through raiding operations. Orcwas targeting Forge Worlds create scenarios where centuries of accumulated industrial capacity can be destroyed in months of savage fighting, their crude but effective war machines overwhelming defensive installations through sheer numerical superiority and reckless aggression. The Orc assault on Forge World Graia during the late 41st millennium demonstrated the devastating impact these Xenos invasions can have on critical Imperial manufacturing capabilities. The greenskin forces that descended upon the planet's industrial complexes showed uncharacteristic coordination in their attacks, suggesting the presence of a particularly cunning warboss who understood the strategic value of capturing rather than simply destroying the world's production facilities. The initial orbital bombardment targeted defensive installations while avoiding the primary forge complexes, indicating that the Orcs intended to preserve valuable manufacturing equipment for their own use rather than engaging in their typical pattern of mindless destruction. The siege that followed revealed the particular vulnerabilities that Forge Worlds face when confronted with enemies who combine technological interest with overwhelming numbers. Orc mechboys leading specialized looting parties penetrated deep into Forge complex networks, their crude cutting tools proving surprisingly effective at breaching security barriers designed to resist more sophisticated threats. The greenskin forces showed disturbing knowledge of Mechanicus facility layouts, suggesting either extensive reconnaissance or the presence of traitors within the planetary defense forces. Skitarii legions found themselves fighting running battles through the sacred corridors of their own manufacturing centers, their precise tactical formations disrupted by Orc forces that ignored conventional military doctrine in favor of chaotic but effective assault tactics. The psychological impact on defending tech priests proved almost as devastating as the physical damage inflicted by the invasion. Warriors who had dedicated their lives to the protection of sacred machinery were forced to watch as Orc looters dismantled irreplaceable manufacturing equipment, their crude modifications destroying millennia of accumulated technological refinement. The sight of greenskin mechboys attempting to understand plasma containment systems through trial and error created horror that transcended mere military defeat, representing a fundamental violation of everything the Mechanicus claimed to protect. Several tech priests suffered complete psychological breakdowns when confronted with Orc attempts to improve ancient STC pattern machinery through the addition of random mechanical components and crude welding operations. The broader threat posed by Orc invasions extends beyond immediate physical damage to encompass the long-term disruption of inter-Forge World trade relationships that can take decades to restore. The loss of Graea's specialized anti-Xenos weapon production capabilities created shortages that affected Imperial Guard regiments throughout the sector, forcing other Forge Worlds to redirect their manufacturing capacity to fill critical gaps in military supply chains. The technological expertise that had been concentrated on Graea could not be easily replicated elsewhere, as the knowledge required for effective anti-Orc weapon design had been accumulated through centuries of direct combat experience that other worlds lacked. Eldar raids on Forge World installations present different but equally serious threats to Imperial manufacturing capabilities, as these ancient Xenos possess technological advantages that allow them to strike with precision and withdraw before effective countermeasures can be deployed. The speed and coordination of Eldar assault forces make conventional defensive preparations largely ineffective, their advanced gravitic vehicles and sophisticated weaponry allowing them to penetrate even heavily fortified installations with minimal casualties. The surgical precision of these attacks often targets specific facilities or personnel, suggesting intelligence gathering capabilities that exceed anything available to Imperial forces. The Eldar assault on Forge World Metallica's primary explorator fleet construction facility demonstrated the devastating effectiveness of Xenos' precision strikes against critical Imperial infrastructure. The attacking force bypassed outer defensive perimeters entirely, their vehicles approaching through underground tunnel networks that had been excavated with tools that left no detectable traces of their passage. The raiders struck simultaneously at multiple points within the construction complex, their weapons targeting specific machinery and personnel with accuracy that suggested detailed advance intelligence about facility operations and key personnel assignments. The weapons employed by the Eldar raiders proved particularly effective against Mechanicus defensive systems, their energy discharge patterns apparently calibrated to overload the power grid systems that supplied defensive installations. Skitarii response forces found their augmented sensory systems disrupted by exotic interference fields that prevented effective target acquisition, while their standard weapons proved largely ineffective against the advanced armor systems protecting Eldar vehicles. The raiders demonstrated intimate knowledge of Mechanicus tactical doctrine, deploying countermeasures that neutralized standard defensive responses while exploiting weaknesses in facility security that had never been identified by Imperial analysts. The most disturbing aspect of the Eldar attack involved the selective destruction of specific manufacturing equipment, while other, apparently more valuable installations were left completely undamaged. The raiders destroyed 3 plasma forge assemblies while ignoring adjacent facilities containing rare STC patterns, suggesting either incomprehensible alien priorities or knowledge of future events that made certain manufacturing capabilities more strategically significant than others. Tech priests analyzing the attack pattern could identify no logical explanation for the targeting choices, creating ongoing uncertainty about Eldar motivations and the potential for future raids against other installations. Tyranid hive fleets represent perhaps the most terrifying threat facing Forge worlds in the 41st millennium, as these bioengineered swarms consume entire worlds to fuel their continued expansion across the galaxy. The systematic efficiency with which Tyranid organisms strip planets of all organic and metallic resources leaves nothing behind that could support continued human habitation, making successful defense the only viable option for threatened Forge worlds. The biological adaptability of Tyranid species allows them to develop countermeasures for specific weapons and defensive systems within individual battles, creating tactical scenarios where conventional military doctrine proves inadequate for sustained resistance. The defense of Forge World Lucius against elements of Hive Fleet Kraken revealed both the strengths and limitations of Mechanicus military doctrine when confronted with an enemy that could adapt to their tactical approaches in real time. The initial Tyranid assault waves were effectively contained by Skitarii defensive positions equipped with standard anti-infantry weapons, their Laws guns and plasma weapons proving devastatingly effective against the relatively lightly armored organisms that comprised the vanguard of the alien swarm. However, subsequent waves included creatures whose carapaces had apparently evolved resistance to energy weapons, their biological armor deflecting shots that had proven lethal to earlier variants of the same species. The Tyranid adaptation process created a tactical nightmare for defending forces, as weapons and tactics that proved effective in early engagements became progressively less useful as the battle continued. Skitarii Rangers found their galvanic rifles ineffective against creatures whose nervous systems had developed immunity to electrical disruption, while Vanguard formations discovered that their radioactive ammunition had minimal impact on organisms whose cellular structure had been modified to process radiation as a nutrient source. The tech priests coordinating the defense were forced to constantly modify their tactical approaches, their enhanced analytical capabilities struggling to keep pace with biological adaptations that occurred within hours rather than the millennia typically required for evolutionary change. The most horrifying aspect of the Tyranid assault involved the systematic consumption of fallen Skitarii warriors, whose mechanical augmentations were apparently being analyzed and incorporated into subsequent generations of Tyranid organisms. Defending forces reported encounters with creatures that displayed mechanical appendages clearly derived from captured Imperial technology, their biological systems somehow integrating advanced components in ways that violated fundamental principles of both engineering and biology. The sight of Tyranid warriors wielding weapons that incorporated elements of Mechanicus technology created psychological trauma among defending tech priests that extended far beyond normal combat stress. The chaos corruption that threatens Forge worlds operates through more insidious mechanisms than direct military assault, targeting the fundamental beliefs and technological practices that define Mechanicus culture. The machine spirits that inhabit advanced Imperial technology prove particularly vulnerable to demonic influence, their artificial consciousness providing entry points for chaos entities seeking to corrupt manufacturing processes and turn Imperial equipment against its creators. The gradual nature of this corruption makes it extremely difficult to detect until contamination has spread throughout entire facility networks, creating scenarios where trusted equipment suddenly becomes hostile to its operators. The corruption of Forge World Vrax during the 39th millennium demonstrated how chaos influence could transform loyal manufacturing centers into sources of heretical technology that threatened Imperial forces throughout entire sectors. The initial signs of corruption appeared as minor variations in manufacturing quality that were initially attributed to equipment aging or operator error, their significance only becoming apparent when pattern analysis revealed systematic deviations from established STC specifications. Tech priests investigating these anomalies discovered that machine spirits throughout the facility network had been gradually influenced by demonic whispers, their programming slowly altered to incorporate subtle modifications that served chaos rather than Imperial interests. The weapons and equipment produced by corrupted Forge Worlds often appear identical to standard Imperial patterns, while incorporating hidden modifications that can prove catastrophic when deployed in combat situations. Las guns manufactured on Vrax during the corruption period functioned normally during routine testing, but suffered catastrophic power cell explosions. When exposed to the stress of sustained combat, their failure rates calculated to maximize casualties among Imperial Guard units at critical moments during engagements. The investigation that uncovered this sabotage revealed that similar modifications had been incorporated into thousands of other pieces of equipment, creating a supply chain contamination that affected military units across dozens of worlds. The Great Rift that tore across the galaxy during the closing years of the 41st millennium created unprecedented challenges for Forge World operations, as the massive warp storm disrupted communication networks and supply chains that had operated reliably for millennia. The Cicatrix Maledictum divided Imperial space into two distinct regions, with severely limited contact between them, forcing Forge Worlds on opposite sides of the rift to operate independently despite their traditional interdependence. The loss of coordination between manufacturing centers created immediate shortages of critical materials and components, while the inability to share technological information prevented the rapid dissemination of innovations that had previously allowed the Mechanicus to respond quickly to emerging threats. Forge worlds located within the Imperium Nihilus found themselves cut off from Mars and the primary centers of Mechanicus authority, forcing local tech priest hierarchies to make decisions that would normally require approval from higher authorities. The absence of central coordination created opportunities for doctrinal deviation and technological experimentation that would have been quickly suppressed under normal circumstances, while the desperate need for military equipment to combat increased chaos activity forced compromises with orthodox manufacturing procedures. Tech priests who had spent their entire careers following established protocols suddenly found themselves required to make independent judgments about acceptable levels of innovation and risk. The warp storms that accompanied the Great Rift's formation created additional hazards for Forge World operations, as the increased psychic activity interfered with machine spirit function and created unpredictable behavior in advanced technological systems. Plasma reactors experienced containment fluctuations that defied conventional engineering analysis, while cogitator networks suffered data corruption that appeared to follow patterns suggesting intelligent interference rather than random system failures. The tech priests responsible for maintaining these systems found their traditional diagnostic procedures inadequate for addressing problems that seemed to violate fundamental laws of physics. Internal conflicts within the Adeptus Mechanicus have intensified during the 41st millennium as different factions struggle to define appropriate responses to the unprecedented challenges facing Imperial civilization. The Orthodox faction maintains that strict adherence to established doctrine represents the only safe path through the current crisis, arguing that deviation from proven procedures will inevitably lead to the kind of corruption that destroyed so many Forge Worlds during the Horus Heresy. Their opponents within the progressive faction contend that the magnitude of current threats requires more flexible approaches to technological development, claiming that rigid orthodoxy will result in Imperial defeat through technological stagnation. These factional disputes have created operational difficulties for individual Forge Worlds, as competing interpretations of acceptable doctrine create uncertainty about which research projects and manufacturing innovations can be pursued without risking accusations of heresy. Tech priests find themselves caught between the practical necessity of developing new capabilities to address emerging threats and the doctrinal requirements that limit their freedom to experiment with untested technologies. The investigation procedures established to identify potential tech heresy have themselves become sources of conflict, as different factions disagree about the criteria that should be used to evaluate questionable research activities. The call protocols introduced during the Indomitus Crusade have exacerbated these internal tensions by legitimizing technological innovations that many Orthodox tech priests consider dangerously close to heretical experimentation. The new patterns of space marine equipment and the enhanced capabilities of Primaris Astartes represent achievements that clearly exceed traditional Imperial technological capabilities, raising questions about the methods used to develop these innovations and their compatibility with established Mechanicus doctrine. The fact that these developments occurred without input from traditional Forge World hierarchies has created resentment among tech priests who view the protocols as violations of proper technological development procedures. The return of Robute Guilliman from his millennia-long slumber marked a watershed moment in the history of the Forge Worlds, fundamentally altering their relationship with Imperial authority while introducing technological innovations that challenged 10,000 years of conservative doctrine. When the Primarch of the Ultramarines awakened on Muh Crag in the closing years of the 41st millennium, his immediate assessment of Imperial capabilities revealed the extent to which technological stagnation had weakened humanity's position in an increasingly hostile galaxy. The Lord Commander's subsequent authorization of the call protocols represented the most significant departure from Orthodox Mechanicus doctrine since the Treaty of Mars, legitimizing research programs that had been conducted in secret for millennia while opening new avenues for technological development that many tech priests had considered forever forbidden. Belisarius calls emergence as the architect of the Primaris Space Marine project created unprecedented tensions within Forge World hierarchies, as his innovations clearly exceeded the capabilities that Orthodox doctrine claimed were possible within acceptable technological boundaries. The enhanced gene seed that produced Primaris Astartes incorporated modifications that surpassed the original work of the Emperor himself, while the new patterns of power armor and weapons demonstrated manufacturing techniques that had been lost since the Dark Age of technology. The fact that these developments had occurred without oversight from traditional Mechanicus authorities challenged fundamental assumptions about technological development and the proper channels for innovation within the Adeptus Mechanicus. The implementation of Primaris technology across Imperial Space Marine chapters required massive coordination between Forge Worlds that had previously operated according to established production schedules spanning decades or centuries. The Mark X power armor worn by Primaris Marines demanded manufacturing precision that exceeded even the exacting standards maintained for traditional Astartes equipment, while the bolt rifles and plasma incinerators that armed these enhanced warriors incorporated design elements that pushed the boundaries of Imperial materials science. Forge Worlds found themselves required to retool entire production lines to accommodate the new specifications, their tech priests struggling to understand manufacturing techniques that seemed to violate established principles while producing demonstrably superior results. The repulsor grav tanks that provided heavy support for Primaris formations represented perhaps the most radical departure from orthodox Imperial technology, as their anti-gravity propulsion systems incorporated principles that had been considered lost since the Age of Strife. The gravitics manipulation required for these vehicles demanded exotic materials and manufacturing processes that only a handful of Forge Worlds possessed the capability to produce, creating new bottlenecks in Imperial supply chains while establishing previously minor manufacturing centers as critical suppliers for the most advanced Imperial military units. Tech priests assigned to repulsor production underwent extensive retraining to understand propulsion systems that operated according to physical principles their predecessors had spent millennia claiming were beyond human comprehension. The Indomitus Crusade that followed Guilliman's return created unprecedented demand for military equipment across all categories of Imperial manufacturing, as the Lord Commander's forces pushed into regions that had been cut off from Imperial authority for centuries or millennia. Forge worlds that had operated according to peacetime production schedules suddenly found themselves required to maximize output while maintaining the quality standards essential for equipment that would face immediate combat deployment. The coordination required to supply Crusade fleets operating across multiple sectors simultaneously tested the logistical capabilities of the Mechanicus to their absolute limits, forcing innovations in supply chain management and resource allocation that had not been attempted since the Great Crusade itself. The establishment of new forge worlds in regions reclaimed by the Indomitus Crusade followed accelerated timelines that compressed traditional colonization procedures into timeframes measured in years rather than decades. The prefabricated forge complexes deployed by explorator fleets incorporated design improvements developed through millennia of experience, their modular construction allowing rapid assembly while maintaining the defensive capabilities necessary for operation in hostile territories. These new installations served as forward bases for continued expansion while providing the manufacturing capacity necessary to support Imperial forces operating far from established supply lines, their strategic value extending far beyond their immediate production capabilities. The technological challenges posed by the Great Rift required forge worlds to develop new approaches to manufacturing and communication that could function despite the massive warp storms that disrupted traditional Imperial infrastructure. The enhanced Vox systems that maintained contact across the Cicatrix Maledictum incorporated shielding technologies that protected communication equipment from psychic interference, while the modified plasma reactors that powered critical installations included containment systems designed to remain stable despite fluctuations in local space-time that accompanied major warp disturbances. These innovations represented practical responses to immediate operational requirements rather than theoretical research projects, their development driven by necessity rather than doctrinal considerations. The integration of Primaris technology with existing Imperial military doctrine created complex challenges for Forge World production planning, as the enhanced capabilities of new Space Marine equipment required corresponding upgrades to supporting systems and infrastructure. The ammunition required for bolt rifles demanded manufacturing precision that exceeded specifications for traditional bolter rounds, while the power requirements of plasma incinerators necessitated improvements to portable power cell technology that had remained essentially unchanged for millennia. The cascading effects of these upgrades rippled through entire supply chains, forcing modifications to countless other systems that had previously operated according to stable, well-understood procedures. The expansion of manufacturing capabilities required to meet Indomitus Crusade demands created opportunities for technological advancement that had been impossible under previous resource constraints. Forge worlds that had operated single production lines for specific equipment categories found themselves able to justify investments in parallel manufacturing systems that could produce multiple variants of the same basic design, their increased capacity allowing experimentation with modifications and improvements that would have been too risky when operating at minimal capacity. The competitive pressure created by Crusade supply requirements encouraged innovation within acceptable doctrinal boundaries, as Forge Worlds sought to demonstrate their value through superior performance rather than simple adherence to established procedures. The threat assessment capabilities developed during the Indomitus Crusade revealed the extent to which Imperial military technology had fallen behind the capabilities of major Xeno species and Chaos forces encountered in newly contacted regions. Necron Tomb worlds awakening throughout the galaxy deployed weapon systems that could disable Imperial void shields and armor protection with ease, while Tyrannid Hive fleets demonstrated biological adaptations that rendered traditional Imperial weapons increasingly ineffective. chaos forces that had consolidated power in regions cut off from Imperial authority wielded demon engines and corrupted technologies that combined the worst aspects of heretical innovation with supernatural capabilities that defied conventional countermeasures. These revelations forced Forge World leadership to reconsider long-standing assumptions about the adequacy of existing Imperial technology for addressing contemporary threats. The conservative approach that had characterized Mechanicus doctrine since the Horus Heresy had succeeded in preventing large-scale technological disasters, but it had also resulted in stagnation that left Imperial forces increasingly disadvantaged against enemies who continued to develop new capabilities. The authorization of the call protocols provided a framework for pursuing necessary improvements while maintaining sufficient oversight to prevent the kind of uncontrolled experimentation that had led to previous catastrophes. The development of new anti-Xenos weaponry became a priority for Forge Worlds operating in sectors where Imperial forces faced regular contact with technologically advanced alien species. The enhanced laws weapons that emerged from these research programs incorporated focusing systems that could penetrate Necron living metal armor, while the modified plasma weapons developed for anti-Tyranid operations included containment systems that remained stable even when exposed to the exotic bioacids secreted by larger hive fleet organisms. These innovations required careful balance between effectiveness against specific threats and compatibility with existing Imperial military doctrine, their deployment limited to specialized units that could be trusted to employ advanced weapons responsibly. The coordination between different Forge Worlds that had been disrupted by the Great Rift began to recover as new communication technologies and transportation methods reduced the isolation that had characterized the immediate post-Rift period. The enhanced astropathic relay systems that bridged the cicatrix maledictum incorporated psychic shielding that protected Imperial communications from the worst effects of warp storm interference, while the modified warp drive systems developed for critical supply runs included navigation improvements that reduced travel times through the most dangerous warp routes. These technological advances represented collaborative efforts between multiple Forge Worlds, their development requiring coordination and resource sharing that had been impossible during the height of the crisis. The political relationships between Forge Worlds and other Imperial institutions evolved significantly during the Indomitus Crusade, as the immediate practical requirements of military operations overrode many of the bureaucratic procedures that had previously governed inter-organizational cooperation. Space Marine chapters found themselves working directly with tech priest specialists to optimize equipment performance for specific mission requirements, while Imperial Guard commanders gained unprecedented access to Mechanicus technical expertise for planning operations that required specialized equipment or unusual tactical approaches. These closer working relationships created mutual understanding and respect that transcended traditional institutional boundaries, establishing precedents for future cooperation that could prove valuable in addressing long-term Imperial strategic challenges. The expansion of Forge World influence into regions that had been isolated from Imperial authority for extended periods revealed both the resilience of human technological knowledge and the extent to which local variations had developed in the absence of central oversight. Isolated human populations had often maintained functional technology through improvisation and adaptation that violated orthodox Mechanicus procedures while achieving acceptable results, their innovations representing alternative approaches to common engineering challenges that could potentially inform official Imperial development programs. The integration of these local technological traditions with standard Imperial procedures required careful evaluation to identify useful innovations, while eliminating practices that might compromise safety or reliability. The training programs developed to prepare tech priests for service in post-Rift Imperial operations emphasized adaptability and independent decision-making to a degree that would have been considered dangerous under previous doctrinal interpretations. The isolation that characterized many Indomitus Crusade operations meant that tech priests often found themselves required to make critical decisions without access to higher authority or established precedents, their judgment becoming the primary factor determining whether complex technological systems continued functioning effectively. These experiences created a generation of tech priests who possessed greater confidence in their individual capabilities, while maintaining appropriate respect for the doctrinal principles that guided their decision-making processes. The research priorities that emerged from Indomitus Crusade experiences reflected a pragmatic approach to technological development that balanced immediate military requirements against long-term strategic considerations. The development of improved defensive systems received priority due to the enhanced capabilities demonstrated by Imperial enemies, while research into more efficient manufacturing processes addressed the logistical challenges that had limited Imperial expansion capabilities. The investigation of recovered xenotech remained carefully controlled, but the protocols governing such research were modified to allow more rapid analysis of alien technologies that posed immediate threats to Imperial forces. The quality control procedures that governed Forge World production evolved to accommodate the accelerated timelines and increased output requirements of the post-Rift period, while maintaining the safety standards essential for equipment that would face immediate combat deployment. The testing protocols applied to new equipment designs incorporated lessons learned from battlefield performance analysis, their procedures refined to identify potential failure modes that might not become apparent during laboratory testing, but could prove catastrophic under combat conditions. These improvements in quality assurance represented collaborative efforts between Forge World technical specialists and the Imperial military units that employed their products, creating feedback loops that continuously improved equipment performance and reliability. The future of the Forge Worlds in the 42nd millennium appears to depend on their ability to balance the competing demands of technological innovation and doctrinal orthodoxy, while addressing threats that exceed anything faced during previous periods of Imperial history. The success of the Primaris project demonstrated that carefully controlled innovation could produce significant improvements in Imperial capabilities without triggering the kind of technological disasters that had characterized previous attempts at major advancement. However, the scale of the challenges facing Imperial civilization requires continued technological development at a pace that tests the boundaries of acceptable risk, while maintaining the spiritual and doctrinal foundations that define Mechanicus identity. The quest for knowledge that has driven Mechanicus expansion since the Great Crusade continues to motivate explorator fleets pushing into the galaxy's most dangerous regions, but their mission parameters have evolved to emphasize the recovery of technologies that can address immediate Imperial strategic requirements rather than the pursuit of knowledge for its own sake. The archaeological techniques employed by these expeditions incorporate improved analysis methods that can extract maximum information from damaged or corrupted sites while minimizing exposure to potential corruption or technological hazards. The integration of Primaris Space Marine support with traditional explorator operations has significantly improved their survival rates while expanding their operational capabilities in hostile environments. The manufacturing capabilities that will define Forge World contributions to Imperial civilization in the coming millennium must accommodate both the traditional requirements of Imperial military forces and the enhanced specifications demanded by new technologies like Primaris equipment and advanced anti-Xenos weapons. The production facilities being constructed in newly reclaimed territories incorporate design improvements that allow rapid reconfiguration for different product categories, their modular architecture enabling adaptation to changing requirements without the massive reconstruction projects that had previously been necessary for major production changes. These facilities represent the culmination of 10 millennia of accumulated manufacturing experience, their capabilities exceeding anything that existed during the Great Crusade, while maintaining the reliability and quality standards that define Imperial technological excellence. The sacred teachings of the Omnissiah continue to provide the spiritual foundation for Forge World civilization, but their interpretation has evolved to accommodate the realities of a galaxy where technological stagnation represents an existential threat to human survival. The machine spirits that inhabit advanced Imperial technology are increasingly viewed as partners in the struggle against humanity's enemies, rather than simply as tools to be maintained according to established procedures. This subtle shift in theological perspective has enabled more effective utilization of Imperial equipment while maintaining the reverence and respect that prevents the kind of casual experimentation that could lead to technological disasters. The future of the Forge Worlds ultimately depends on their ability to preserve the essential elements of their technological and spiritual heritage while adapting to challenges that would have been unimaginable to their founders during the Great Crusade. The return of Guilliman and the authorization of the Call Protocols have demonstrated that change is possible within the framework of Imperial doctrine, but the scale of the threats facing humanity requires continued evolution in both technological capabilities and institutional approaches. The tech priests who will guide the Forge Worlds through the trials of the 42nd millennium must combine the wisdom accumulated over 10,000 years of service to the Omnissiah with the flexibility necessary to address unprecedented challenges that will test every aspect of their faith, knowledge, and determination. As the Imperium faces its darkest hour since the Horus Heresy, the Forge Worlds stand as bastions of technological hope in a galaxy consumed by war and corruption. Their sacred forges continue to burn with the light of human ingenuity, their production lines churning out the weapons and equipment that keep the Imperium's defenders in the fight against overwhelming odds. The quest for knowledge drives them ever forward, seeking the lost technologies that might tip the balance in humanity's favor, while the teachings of the Omnissiah provide the spiritual strength necessary to face whatever horrors the galaxy may unleash. In the crucible of the 42nd millennium, the Forge Worlds will either forge the keys to humanity's salvation or witness the final extinction of the species they have served with unwavering devotion since the dawn of the Imperium itself.